What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Terror Table for episode 77. I'm one of your regular hosts named Mitch, and there's no other Terror Table members here today. This is the first episode that isn't featuring Diego or Boozy. Instead, I've recruited the help of our new brother podcasts who share the same digs that we record in. They're a new music podcast. You've heard us talk about them many times. We've had Jeff Thiessen on twice, but this is the first time for Jonny, so welcome, Jonny, and hey, Jeff.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. This is the voice of Jonny. Good to be on the show. I'm super excited to be a part of it. So thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be awesome. We're gonna get to know Jonny. You guys already know enough about Jeff, but quickly, Jeff, say it.
No,
please say it. Please,
you say
please
it.
Say it. No, you guys say it. You gotta do it once.
I can't even do it.
Just
man.
do it.
My name is Jeff.
My name is Jeff.
There we go.
Okay.
I was wondering if that would come up in any capacity. Of course, I should have assumed.
It will never die.
No. Awesome.
I'm going to get some housekeeping out of the way before we get into our conversation, but just so you guys know, this episode is going to be featuring a main feature presentation on 2018's Hereditary, which is directed by Ari Aster. Just came out a couple days ago. We're recording this on the Monday following the release. And we're going to lead off with a very spoiler-free review. We're gonna talk about the movie without any spoilers in the main feature for the first little bit, and then we're gonna give you fair warning so you can tune out if you haven't seen the movie yet. But we'll get to all that shenanigans once we get there. Before we're gonna do our normal thing where we talk about what we've been seeing, get to know Jonny a little bit. But a couple things I want to get out of the way before is that Boozy will be back next week with me, in which we'll be welcoming first-time guest Lee Beckman, who is a regular co-host on our former guest Larry's podcast, Rank and Review. I asked Lee to join us because it seemed like every single episode that I chose to listen to of Rank and Review, all 117 episodes, seemed to be featuring Lee. So him and I have a lot in common, and I know will have a lot to say about the genre on here, so we're going to welcome him here for that. The following week is going to be the release of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which we are obviously going to have to do an episode on because Boozy jacks off to Jurassic Park every single day of his life. And he's done so for many years. So we're going to be doing a full Jurassic Park retrospective. We're going to go through all 4 movies leading up to a main feature on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I know it's not technically horror, but you guys have been listening long enough to know that Boozy, we need to give him that episode. And so that one will feature me, Diego, and Boozy. And then we are going to resume with our listener appreciation episodes, which is going to be on Kent Blue's pick, Dreamcatcher. And we've held off on these ones because we'd like to have all 3 of us present for each episode. Kind of defeats the purpose of showing our appreciation for listeners if not all 3 hosts are here. And we also don't want to let anyone make it out of Dreamcatcher. Like, I know I think Boozy thinks that he was going to slither his way out of it, but we're going to make sure he's here for that. But that's all the housekeeping that we have to do. Now we'll just get to know Jonny a little bit. You guys know Jeff quite well, so I just want to give a shout out. It's you guys are on your, was that episode 4 of your podcast?
4 and 5 comes out tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
Cool. So yeah, your last episode was on Jeff's top 5 albums of all. They're your most influential albums, which was a great listen, and I can't wait to hear Jonny's. But I've gotten to know you quite a bit, Jeff, over the last couple of weeks, just because we hang out. We'll get to that because you and I watched a movie together. So we'll discuss on here. But Jonny, what's your have you always been into horror movies, or have you ever considered yourself a horror movie fan? Don't be afraid to say no.
I don't watch them religiously. Like,
yeah.
I'm like many of the references that you guys bring up, I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna have to dig through the archives and go into some of this. But I always love them. I love the way that that they put you on edge, the way that gets your heart pumping. There's not many other movie genres that you'll feel anything like that. So I think that's amazing, and so I'm always searching for it, those really good ones, but sometimes find it hard to find the really solid ones.
Yeah.
But also, I love the ones that are just terrible. Maybe not terrible, like the sexy teens that are, the slashers. Yeah. You know what's happening. You know where it's going. Exactly. I love that shit. Only if just to enjoy what you know is coming.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that as well. But yeah, I think it's just fun to throw them into the mix every once in a while. I know my girlfriend, who I watch most of my movies with, isn't a huge fan of horror.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, so that makes it difficult. So I have to have my one go-to friend who, anytime I want to watch something horror, I'm like, okay, Kara, come over, we're watching this. So I've got that one friend, but quite often though, I'm just not watching the horror films. They don't get mixed in as much.
That's awesome, but it's also admirable that you were able to score a girlfriend without using horror movies as a crutch. Like I have no idea how I would have grabbed A cup in grade 8 if I wasn't watching Anaconda's Hunt for the Blood Orchid. But,
wait, what did you call her?
What?
What A cup did you say?
You stop. You're supposed to roll past it.
No, all right.
Grab an A cup, over the pants hand drop.
Oh, I thought it was a term of affection
you wouldn't be familiar with those.
No, I don't know what A cups.
Yeah. So Jonny, another question for you though before we keep going is, do you have a specific memory with a horror movie that made a lasting effect on you?
Probably Strangers, if I can guess.
Strangers was a huge one. I wouldn't say that was the.
Yeah, what about as like a kid?
Yeah, you guys brought it up on your last week's episode with Monster Squad. I remember watching that as a kid all the time, and not necessarily even at the time I wasn't even really considering it a horror film because it's a
kid's movie.
It's a kid's movie to an extent. But I think actually, wait, now that I've rolled through, I know the one. This is it. I wasn't watching the movie. I wasn't supposed to be watching the movie. My brother, for his 12th birthday, was having some friends over, and they're watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Perfect.
And
what a wild way to start.
Yeah. So I remember just kind of like walking downstairs, and I hear I'm not supposed to be watching this, but my parents are gone, and so I'm gonna just watch a little bit of it. And at one point, Leatherface is reaching into another vehicle with his chainsaw, trying to saw into the Jeep, I think, that they had, while his faces are falling off, or he's ripping off multiple faces that may have been of his friends. Now I can't remember exactly, but I remember seeing that. I'm like, holy shit, what the hell is this? Like, I was so scared. My parents were at their friend's house. It was like a kilometer away. I just ran.
Yeah.
I just took off running. It was I wanted nothing to do with it. And for the next probably couple of years, I just would lay in bed. He's under my bed, isn't he? I'm waiting to hear that chainsaw start up. And so that's what really got my heart pumping. And eventually I went back and watched it. I'm like, oh.
It's a comedy.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, did you you didn't pick up on any of the comedy as a kid? Because that's how
I watched it for literally 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
And I said, what the hell is this? Yeah.
But that's how I was with Evil Dead 2. Like, it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And it's like, it's a straight slapstick comedy. Like, that's awesome. I've never heard of Texas Chainsaw 2 being a first.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Isn't it funny how both your guys' siblings have been like such a huge factor in your life, for you with music? And you with music and movies, apparently.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Me with movies as well too. Like I remember my sister was watching like Hellraiser and shit like that. So, but like I never like watched them in full.
Imagine if you guys were only child, eh? Like, how would you have turned out?
I would have been the biggest Britney Spears fan. As Tara actually texted me and said that I have everything to thank for her. If it wasn't for her, I'd be writing a Shawn Mendes blog right now.
Oh boy!
Like,
thank God for Tara and Corey too.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's awesome. Cool. And what about your thoughts on like modern horror? Like, have you found stuff that's been sticking out to you over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think
sorry to cut you off here, but if it weren't for the Terror Table, would you have rushed out to see Hereditary?
Yeah, I think so. I like through the trailers, it looked pretty intense, and you kind of I'm always looking for something that's not just a horror movie. It actually looks like a good movie. Yeah. And because I think sometimes just throwing horror in front of it, all of a sudden, like, it devalues, or it somehow takes it out of the realm, like comedies. Suddenly those aren't Oscar movies anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So it just looked like a great movie, and so I think as long as people keep striving for still making quality film, I'll see it whichever genre it's in.
Yeah, and I think that's like a common misconception among people who aren't like very into the genre too, is that for so long it was just trash. Like there was a lot of trash, and I think a lot of people are still coming around to the fact that like we're getting stuff like Hereditary, It Follows, Killing of a Sacred Deer, like stuff like that has substance to it. So it's not all just like, a lot of people think horror, they think campy slashers or I know what you did last summer. I was going to ask, was that one of those movies for you? Were you like a 90s teenager?
For sure. Yeah, I watched them all in theaters with my friends. We'd all go together, scream, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, that was definitely part of it for me.
Awesome. Cool. And so you now have your own podcast with Jeff here. So be it. You guys need to check that out, because by the time this one's up, you'll be able to get a double dose of Jonny, because it's going to be your top 5 most influential albums.
Yep.
Which I'm really looking forward to listening to. But yeah, for that, like, we'll get to know you more as we go on through this, but let's get into the normal format of what we've been up to. Starting with you, Jonny, have you seen anything besides Hereditary recently that has caught your attention, or something you want to talk about regarding horror?
Well, yeah, 2 things. I brought this up with you last time I was here, because I've started watching the Hannibal series, and I'm really enjoying it. Just finished season 1, but it's I know that it ends at season 3, and so I remember asking you if I should continue on, if it's worth it, if it just ends, because I'm someone I need to know where it goes, right? And if it just suddenly is pulled away from me, that's kind of frustrating. But I've been loving the show so far.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's a very good show, and something I was actually just starting to check out today, and I think I'm actually going to just leave it behind. There's a new docu-series on Netflix. It's called, I believe, The Staircase.
Yeah, we started that too.
Yeah, and so I got through episode 1, and the whole time I'm just thinking, this isn't Making a Murderer. Like, it was just like, it wasn't building itself on enough.
It's trying to be, and I think it's very well known that the guy who it's centered on did do it. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of facts out there so it's like, even we just watched the first episode as well, and watching him just like scramble, it's like, this isn't interesting. Yeah, this guy's clearly got blood all over his hands. Like,
exactly, and it's like, okay, well, so now we're just gonna follow these guys who are just trying to. Well, this could have obviously she could have hit her head 3 times while just falling once. Like, it's just
it's one of those, like, it seems like Making a Murder, like, even though these true crime documentaries have been around for a long time, it seems like Making a Murder is like, really, like, people are going to start they've been trying to capitalize off of that, the success of that show. I'll hit you with a different one if you don't want to continue that. Have you watched Evil Genius yet?
No.
You should check that on Netflix, because that's a really good, terrifying.
What's the premise? I feel like I've maybe watched the trailer or something.
It's the one where it's based on the pizza bomber, which is these people strapped a bomb to a pizza delivery guy's neck, and they made a movie 30 minutes or less.
Yeah. Like, don't say anything more, because like, people don't know anything about that.
Yeah, and
that first episode is like.
Have you watched it though?
Yeah, I knew the story behind it. Yeah. So it's the most wild story.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it is fucking nuts. So,
I did see that trailer. So I was, I always look at these things and I'm like, well, I don't know. Are we just going to drag this out, or is this actually something worthwhile? So
it's tough, because it seemed like Netflix was putting out quality for a while there, but now, like, there's the quality sprinkled in. They put out so much shit now that it's like, it's hard to tell if it's going to be worth watching or not. Like,
Evil Genius is definitely one.
It's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
I wish they had a rating system. I know they've got like suggestions for you, but I wish you could see like, hey, my friends like this. Or
I know. Yeah, it'd be cool to be able to link to it, because everyone's got Netflix. It'd be awesome to be able to link, be like, what's Jeff watching?
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess it'd just be My Little Pony over and over again.
No. Don't connect to me, please. It's my little secret. Don't infiltrate that, please.
Jesus. Okay, well, all right, let's get on to you, Jeff. What have you been up to?
Well, obviously, I set aside my whole week to watch Hereditary. I guess the other one I stumbled onto, which I fucking hate, BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
Like, everybody.
That's Courtney's favorite thing in the world.
Really?
Yeah, she's the bane of existence.
Oh, God. I despise it. But I stumbled upon a BuzzFeed thing that said the scariest thing that you've never seen is on Amazon Prime, which I have, but I never use.
Yeah.
And then it's on iTunes, so I was bored last night, and I watched Hell House LLC.
I've heard it's good.
It is.
Okay, so I thought you were about to shit on BuzzFeed.
No, they led me to a good place.
The took a turn.
Yeah.
No, it's I think I
know Dwight, who's a listener of ours, who's our first listener, now listens to So Be It. He's a big fan of that movie, from what I remember.
No, it's a found footage one, like you said. So it's a lot of people now are very reluctant to give those a shot. Mm-hmm. So the idea behind it is basically ripe for jump scares. It's set up. I was so skeptical, because the idea behind it is it's a found footage, but also mixed in with a mockumentary about a haunted, like a quote unquote haunted house a group of people set up for, like haunted houses are sprinkled throughout every city you pay $10 to walk through and get scared. And so this one documents a group that had an opening night, and then they had 15 people get killed in the opening night. And then the footage is found. And you see the first part of the movie is basically seeing the people setting up and the creepy shit happening as they're trying to get the abandoned hotel set up for the opening night. And then obviously you kind of see what happens once those 15 people get killed. And it's ripe, like I said, it's ripe for jump scares because it's so much like there's
Is it supernatural? Like that? Well, without spoiling it, like unless that is a spoiler, do they lead you to believe it's supernatural, or is
it sort of deals with the occult?
Okay.
But yeah, I was super skeptical, but I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like all these things popping out, but it was actually very patient, which it should not have been. Like I would never guess you'd be patient, and it was actually it let the story develop, and then at the end, it was a sort of satisfying ending. I obviously can't go into too much of it, but yeah,
worth a watch though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Man. I'm gonna add that to my list. Sweet. Anything else, or just what you and I have watched?
Tales from the Hood.
Yeah, me and Jeff got together and drank some beers and watched Tales from the Hood, and he spilt all over my living room. And before that, he spilt all over the bathroom. Don't spill in here. This is sacred land, and you can't spill on the M-box.
I'm just I'm clutching this with two hands. If you can see me, my beer is being
it's gonna shatter.
It will. Yeah. But yeah, we I don't know, did you...
I saw,
what was your recollection of it the first time you saw it?
Well,
I was blown away.
I was so young when I saw that movie the first time, we're to the point where it's almost like this was a new watch for me. I only remembered certain parts, and it seemed like I only really remembered the wraparound segments of it. Like even that I didn't really fully remember. But Tales from the Hood it's an anthology movie based all around the Hood.
Yeah.
And I know, so that movie was so much better than I remember it being, or I'm kind of kicking myself for not rewatching it earlier. I'm trying to find out who the director was and everything, because I know he's got a second one coming out now. Tales from the Hood 2 was announced recently. Filibuster, please help Jeff. Just kidding.
So what do you need? His name or
Rusty Kundiev? No, sorry, I was looking it up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Clarence Williams III plays the main guy in it. But the story of it is a funeral director tells 4 strange tales of horror with an African-American focus to 3 drug dealers he traps in his place of business. And yeah, that's one of the most solid and front to back consistent anthology movies I've seen in a long time. I loved it. I did not. I don't remember it having such heavy political subtext. It's extremely relevant for that time, and it's still relevant today, which is upsetting. But you can tell. I know that Jordan Peele stated it as an influence for him making Get Out, and more movies like that, in my opinion.
Well, it's a weird watch because you get the cheeky Tales from the Crypt humor.
Yeah.
Right, and like you said, the middle parts they're odd and they're funny, but it kind of brings you back to the Crypt Keeper when he would sort of break up the stories.
Yeah.
But then it would go back into really, like you said, there's some really the systemic racism, police brutality, and I feel conflicted. I'm I want to laugh at this because the Tales from the Crypt aesthetic.
Yeah, well, not only that, and it's got the camp is through the roof in that movie, all the practical effects.
But the messages
aren't not at all
aren't meant to be taken
they
as
played
a joke,
so straight faced.
It's almost like Spike Lee did this.
Exactly, it's not one of those campy horror movies that you watch to laugh at, which is what I think we thought it was going to be.
I did.
Yeah. And they we're let's have some beers and watch Tales from the Hood. And it turned out to be Courtney had to leave the room. She came home and she had to leave the room because they were showing old KKK footage.
Yeah, they showed Elliot Tillman being hung, and I'm just hey, Mitch, thanks for having me. Cheers.
Let me spill this beer all over your carpet. No, it was fucking awesome, and I look forward to watching it again, and I highly encourage anyone who's listening who hasn't seen it to check it out, especially if you like anthology movies. But yeah, that's the one thing, is that the camp was through the roof, but it was still creepy. Yeah, it's unsettling,
and it didn't waste time delivering like the messages. It was very clear what they're trying to say. Diego would love it. He loves anthologies.
Yeah, I think Diego has seen it, and I think he does love it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember him mentioning it once.
Yeah,
but
very different than Bordello of Blood, for example.
Much, much, much better than Bordello
No,
of Blood.
much worse.
No, don't you dare.
No, I loved it, but yeah.
No, it's great. Yeah, that's going to be a short opener for this week because Courtney and I just finished watching Breaking Bad it was my third time. You guys already know about this, but I'm not going to talk about it on here. Just the show is fucking unbelievable, but that's been taking up all of our time. So look forward to next week when I probably get back to watching 6 horror movies a week. So we'll get on to that. But before we go into our main feature, we're not going to do a Boozies Newsies this week. Instead, we're just going to discuss 2 very important trailers that dropped over the last week. Let's start off with Predator, the Predator trailer. Did you guys both watch it then?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
First and second one.
The new one.
Yes.
And so what's your guys' opinions on Predator? Like, are you excited for this movie at all? Did you guys grow up being Predator fans?
Actually, I did.
I was a fan of the first movie, but like after that, I didn't really carry it on. Like, and there was like the mashup even.
Yeah, Alien vs. Predator. Yeah. It's never gotten its fair service. That's actually, I completely forgot to talk about this. I did watch something, but this was like 2 weeks ago, and I keep forgetting to talk about it. Courtney and I rewatched Predators, and the Robert Rodriguez one. I believe it's from 2011 or 2012. Not a good movie. I remember I went to theaters and I liked it, and I've been saying it for years, being like, that movie's pretty good. It's not. Like, it's pretty fucking rough. And it's just sad because you can just see that we've never, still to this day, the first Predator with Schwarzenegger is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fucking love that movie. Predator 2 is one of the most bizarre enigmas in film history. Like, have you guys seen that one, though?
Yeah.
I've seen it. I can barely remember it, though, doesn't
Danny Glover.
Yeah, Danny Glover. And he's just a psychopath in it. It's just very stereotypical. I don't know. That movie, it's hilarious. That's one that you watch.
We should have got drunk and watched that movie, actually.
Because I know former guest Larry Parsons has a theory on that movie that there actually aren't any predators, and it's just Danny Glover going ham and shooting everybody. And I like that more than the idea of the actual predators. And it's Gary Busey. Like, it's just insanity. And then we got the Rodriguez one, which it's not terrible. It's not. That story could be so awesome.
It's just really difficult, I think, because they created a really memorable villain.
Yes,
but the environment he was in the first movie was also very unique. You can never duplicate a bunch of Marines being in a jungle again, but that's also what made it good.
Yeah.
So what do? Like, you have to take the villain and put him somewhere else, and then it's kind of, you try to figure out if it works, and usually I don't think it does.
They don't really. It's tough to really kind of grow him as a villain, like, and which actually they're kind of doing in this trailer. They say that he's as he's moving from planet to planet, or as the predators are moving from planet to planet, they're actually evolving in some way. I'm not really sure.
But and he's similar, like, obviously, to the Xenomorph, and like sort of. Yeah. I mean, in terms of how memorable he is, but that was Ridley Scott and James Cameron. Let's be honest, the first Predator was kind of a dick flick.
Yeah, so, it's the best.
Yeah, I'm not saying that as a criticism.
It's a machismo piece of shit that's awesome.
Yeah, but there was no seeds planted with that. It's just he existed it was a big fuck fest of,
it's just dudes.
Arnold and alpha males, and
big guns, big
Dylan,
muscles.
you son of a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. So there was nothing planted. It was just that he was great, and so with trying to move him into more where I'm supposed to be intrigued by.
Well, I think the Predators are an insanely intriguing villain. They
haven't really developed them that much.
No, and that's why this is the time. For some reason, I still love Predator.
We're still at the same point. We know as much about them as we did in 1987 or when that came out.
Yeah,
close to, anyways.
Yeah, if you're discounting the Alien vs. Predator series, which you could.
I kind of am. Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I think.
What do you think of the trailer?
I thought the first trailer looked awesome.
And the second?
I think it looks even better.
Okay.
I'm very excited for this movie. It's a character that hasn't fully gotten its due yet. I don't think so.
Might be too late.
I don't think so.
We'll see.
I think, I don't know.
I think the casting actually looks pretty good too. Olivia Munn, if she's in anything, I'm in.
Yeah, her and I love Tom Jane. Tom Jane's in it.
Thomas Jane?
Thomas Jane. Yeah, Thomas Jane is in it.
No.
I don't think so.
Yes.
Like the Punisher guy?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
I'll show you right now.
I didn't see him in the trailer.
Directed by Shane Black.
I only know the guy from
Narcos.
Narcos, yeah, the Narcos guy.
Thomas Jane, Boyd Holbrook, he's from Narcos, and he's awesome.
Yeah, he looks awesome too.
Yeah, he's a really good actor. But yeah, Thomas Jane's in it. Sterling K. Brown.
I don't remember him
I didn't
at
see him at all. Yeah.
Jacob Tremblay, who's the boy from Room. Keegan Michael Key, like from Key and Peele.
Yeah, I saw him.
Right, yeah. I was like, wait.
Yeah,
Is that dickhead Alfie Allen from Game of Thrones? If you guys watch that,
which guy is he?
He's the dickless Reek.
Oh,
Reek.
Okay.
He's in John Wick. Yeah, fuck that dickless piece of shit. I hate him in that show.
And the guy from I can't even think of the show now. It's a very sappy show that's on TV. That's like that's happening at multiple times throughout the family. I can't remember the name of it, but
This Is Us.
This Is Us. Yeah, the one of the brothers from This Is Us is in it as well, and he looks actually like a pretty good character.
Did you guys know this guy's in it? From like Scary Movie and Night at the Roxbury.
Oh. No, I did not know he was in that.
He's the guy with
well, guaranteed he's slaughtered mercilessly.
Hopefully, he's in the top build. Right next to Olivia Munn.
He'll get killed.
I don't think many people are going to be lasting in this one for too
No,
long.
he will not be.
Yeah.
And that's
Imagine if he did, if he was the last surviving one.
Yeah. And a common complaint for the first Predator trailer, I know Boozy had this thought, and I know a lot of people did, is that it shows that the Predator is brought to Earth by being called by like a kid fucking up, basically.
Oh yeah, it was a cube or something.
Yeah,
right?
Like a little piece of the ship or like a ship calling card, essentially.
Because he's playing Boyd Holbrook's son. And I don't know, like I said that I didn't love that. I don't think that's something to be super overly critical of. I think that's something that, like, how else are the Predators? I know there's probably a million cool ways to do it.
This is exactly what I was talking about, though. Like, they didn't really build anything, so they have to make some random way of making him. Like, there's a backstory that has to be delivered now, but how? And apparently it's a kid summoning him. I don't know.
I think it's a good fuck up. Like,
I'm trying to. It might be too little, too late. I'm in that camp, but I hope you guys are. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, and it's also too early to tell. For all we know, that could actually not be how the Predator comes to Earth.
No, we've seen 2 trailers. We know everything we need to know.
Exactly. Yeah. But the most important thing about this newest trailer, though, is they introduce a basically mega Predator. So it's like, how big is that thing? It's got to be.
Oh man, it's like 12, double the size
50,
of the actual
12, 15 feet.
Yeah,
maybe.
super shredder.
Yeah, it is. It's like Super Shredder. No, and that just got me so excited.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to see Predators do cool shit, and that's what I think. It doesn't look like it's taking itself too seriously, and I think that's the right way to treat it.
Shane Black is.
Yeah, Shane Black fucking rules.
Yeah, sorry, George.
I was going to say that you need to kind of watch both the episodes, or not episodes, both the trailers to see what the heck the movie's actually about, and what are the pieces of it. The first one tells you kind of the story. The other one shows the action that's going to be inside of it. So you kind of have to punch the two together or watch at least both of them. So.
Totally. Very true. Either way, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks cool.
I'll watch it for sure. Yeah.
It's going to be a fun popcorn movie at very least, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then the big one, the big kahuna in the room, the trailer for the 2018 Halloween movie finally came out on Friday.
Loved it.
Yeah, it was
You
awesome.
guys both love it?
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I think it looks so good.
Yeah.
And that's and here's the thing. Like, were you guys Halloween fans growing up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like
I thought the sequels were maybe the worst out of the franchises.
Compared to like other franchises?
Like out of the big other 80s
Friday
ones.
the 13th
They were
and-
so unwatchable, I thought. But the first 3
two
were awesome.
I love Halloween 1 and 2. I like parts of 4.
Whoa, don't just skip over Season of the Witch.
No, but that's not a Michael Myers one. You know what I mean?
yes,
Of course
yeah.
I like 3.
Sure.
I love 3. But no, I have a weird love for even those shitty sequels, and I know that they suck. Like there's like 4 and 5. Those are the exact same movie, just disposable characters. Like
Exactly.
I've actually grown a new affection for Curse of Michael Myers, the 6th one, because with Paul Rudd.
Oh yeah.
It is so bizarre that it's fucking it's fascinating. It's fascinating how stupid that movie is. And like how many, like the whole like Curse of Thorn thing that they introduced, like, so I've been the guy who thinks that like Halloween can expand on Halloween. There's still good things to do there. But at the same time, I'm one of the guys who's shit on Halloween 1 and 2 by Rob Zombie. Like, I'm not a fan of those movies. I know Jeff isn't. How do you feel about those?
I barely remember them. Like, I saw them. I know I for sure saw the first one. I don't know if I even saw the second one. I saw the first one when it came out in theaters.
Yeah.
I don't know if I even watched the second one.
you're good.
Yeah.
There's actually I prefer Halloween 2 like Rob Zombies, but it's still a pile of shit.
Yeah, I guess I didn't love it if I didn't really seek out the next one.
But I don't know. I just a lot of people are saying like because people generally did not accept those movies, and now they're going back. Like even Carpenter he wasn't going to be a part of any of these remakes or anything like that, but he believed that now this one's written by Danny McBride, Kenny Powers, and directed by David Gordon Green, who I think is a really interesting director. Have you guys seen like many of David Gordon Green's movies? Like what
has he done?
Pineapple Express.
Oh,
yeah, he did Pineapple Express.
Okay,
the only one that he did a drama called Snow Angels with Sam, what's his name, from Three Billboards. What's his name? Moon.
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell.
Oh.
Sam Rockwell's in it, and Kate Beckinsale. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's a great drama. He also did Joe with Nicolas Cage. Have you seen that?
No.
It's awesome.
Oh, okay.
Like it is.
It's his 1 in 5. I say 1 in 5 of his movies are actually pretty good.
Oh yeah, I love Nicolas Cage, but like, and most recently, if you guys haven't seen Mom and Dad yet, you guys should check that out.
Oh yeah, I've actually had a lot of people tell me I have to watch Mom and Dad.
It's pretty awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I really liked it. But he recently did, or I guess it was 2013, Prince Avalanche with Paul Rudd and Emile Hirsch. So nothing resembling a horror movie. Probably closest to a horror movie is Joe. But I just think that he's an interesting choice for this. And obviously if John Carpenter is on board now, he's executive producing and he's scoring it. At least that's what they say. They don't show any of his new music in the trailer. It's all old music.
Yeah.
But that's exciting as shit for me. And
Well, the reason I brought up the sequels isn't to get into a big discussion of how awful they were after Season of the Witch, but that trailer kind of made a concerted effort to shit on everything that happened.
Everything past one.
Yeah, and I like that because I think that tells me they're aware of like, for me, like I know you have affections for certain of them, certain entries, but they're well aware of how sideways that series went.
Yeah.
And how far away it took us from what we were scared of with Michael Myers. And it wasn't even subtle about it. Like there was characters in the trailer saying, addressing like the Laurie being the brother. Being
I love that.
They're like, we're not even fucking around. Like this is a brand new start after Halloween 2. And we're wiping all that shit clean, including the Rob Zombie nonsense. And to me, that was encouraging.
Totally. I agree. And for me, like the only like remotely negative things I've heard about the trailer so far from people is that it just looks like a Halloween movie. And here's where I
think that's what we need.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
It's what like as someone who grew up like I consider John Carpenter's Halloween one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I love that movie. Mm-hmm. It's a seminal slasher movie. I want to just see them expand on it a little bit. I don't want it like that's the thing. We got Rob Zombie's takes on it where they completely humanize Michael. I'm not interested in that. Some people are already complaining that the trailer is doing a lot of the things that Rob Zombie does in his movies, like how they show him at the mental facility, like which is the best scene in the trailer.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like they don't show his face, and so for me, I was like, I love that. I love that all you can see is his back, and you just see he's an old man now, and that's what's exciting for me. Is not like I don't want to know anything about him besides he's just a force of nature who's going to break out somehow.
There's that scene in the trailer that probably was, yes, the asylum one was pretty awesome, but where he just like drops the teeth in the bathroom. I'm like, fuck.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a standout for a lot of people. And like, it's fucking awesome. I have a theory about that though, because that's not a Michael move. Michael wouldn't do that.
That's what threw me off. Yeah.
It's not him.
Oh.
And they I think they show that all of these other convicts escaped.
Yeah, right.
So I think that it's, if anything, this is just a prediction for me, like what I'm theorizing. But I think that that's just like it's going to show there's psychopaths everywhere. Yeah, and it'll show even the difference in how calculated those people are, or how reckless those criminals are, and it'll show us how just specific Michael is, and how that. So there's going to be more people getting killed by not at the hands of Michael.
Oh, I could see that.
It did seem not a Michael move, but then I thought of Halloween 1 where he kind of almost dressed up all his victims in the last.
Yeah,
as the tour of the tour of death or whatever.
He wears a sheet over his head.
Yeah,
I love that they brought that back too.
Yeah.
Like that scene. I think it is a long trailer. They show you a lot, but I think that they need it to, because people have been all over this movie's ass. Like, I follow the production company, one of the guys who's behind bringing this movie to life, and
Blumhouse,
Blumhouse, and then one of their he's one of the managing directors of the, I believe that's what his title is. He's like a main producer at Blumhouse, but he was the one who is bringing Halloween back, and he's one of the reasons I have so much faith in this movie. Is I've been listening to him on podcasts for 5 years now. His name's Ryan Turk. He does a horror podcast called Shockwaves. And just over the years, I know that he's a huge Michael fan. He's a Halloween fan, and he knows what the fans want. And I know that I'm kind of on this. I tend to agree with him on almost everything. So I think if he's got his hand in it, and like he seems pretty confident in it, there's going to be something awesome to see here. I think that, there's a lot of speculation going around about this trailer. Like I said, the whole teeth thing. Who knows? We're not going to know until we see it, but I loved it.
I just hope there's a lot there that works for new audiences, because, man, they're like, we'll get into it soon, but like, they're seeing stuff like Hereditary. Yeah. And It Follows, which is such a big shift. So I don't want it to be like just for guys like me and you, you know?
No, I think Halloween's going to be a very commercial movie. I think, and as it should be. Like, I think it's
you think it'll work for like 22-year-olds? And
this one will.
Yeah, okay.
Not the original Halloween, unfortunately, like, kids just won't latch onto it these days, I don't think. Like, if they see John Carpenter's Halloween, which is unfortunate for me because I love that movie, but I get it. Like, times change. Yeah. And they even show, like, they're showing, like, some of the jump scares in the trailer. Like, they show a very awesome scene where there's, like, a babysitter trying to close her closet door.
At the end of the trailer? Yeah.
Do you guys feel like that's too much?
No.
Like, were you cool? I feel like they needed to see it. Yeah. I feel people need to see what to expect a little bit, because people are, I read up on this shit every day, so like seeing the forums and message boards about what people are, and like how they're commenting on like this guy Ryan's his Instagram page. It's like it is harassment. Like people are, he's posting a picture of like him and his fiance, and someone's just like, "Where's the Halloween trailer?"
Fuck you, man.
Like it's
to
wild. Yeah. So I think that it's important that they did this, and it is. I think it looks like exactly what it should look like.
I'm not as optimistic as you in terms of the younger audience latching on, because we've come so far from the guy with the knife stalking a neighborhood, and I'm not sure the younger audiences will like it on the level.
I hope they do.
I hope I'm wrong.
I want a slasher resurgence.
But now I think the thing that helps it stand on its own is the fact that the sister is fighting back now.
Yeah, like Laurie. And they point out that she's not his sister yet. Yeah. I know what you mean, though. Yeah, Laurie Strode. And that's the best part.
Yeah, it's like no, she's like, I want to kill him, and so like it creates this, this they're versus each other rather than him just chasing everyone and
totally. Yeah. And that's what my mind is slipping. That's exactly what I wanted to say about my bottom line for me. What I want from a new Halloween movie is a proper ending for Laurie Strode. Because have you guys seen Halloween Resurrection?
Yeah.
With Buster, or was it Buster Rhymes?
Oh yeah,
Buster Rhymes.
Yes, I have seen that one.
So that's, as of right now, besides this new one, that's Laurie's finale. That's where she's in a mental facility. Michael breaks in. She kisses him while they're hanging on a rooftop, and he drops her.
Yeah, I remember this.
It is the worst fucking ending for potentially the best final girl of all time.
And isn't it like some reality shows taking place in it? Yeah,
and that's awful, what I love shit movies like that. I don't enjoy that movie, but it's hilarious to watch. But that is a gigantic pile of garbage.
Yeah, hopefully it works with Dr. Loomis too.
Yeah, well, they kind of make it seem like Laurie's going to be Dr. Loomis in this one. Like, she's got the whole hysteria thing going on, and she's all old and shit.
You haven't looked into the face of pure evil until you've seen him. And I love in the first one, one of the other characters even tells him, like, oh, good, more evil gobbledygook. Thanks. He even tells him to shut up. But anyways, I'm a Dr. Loomis fan. But I am too. I'm stoked for the new one. I hope it makes a lot of money.
Yeah, me too. I think it. Hopefully it will.
Hopefully.
I have a quick note before we walk away from this, and it's, what's the deal with a trailer before the trailer? It's like I click on the YouTube video.
I know what you mean, yeah.
How do you think I'm that impatient? I know what I clicked on, just so you don't leave.
People are.
We're going to give you a 10-second trailer.
It's true, though. It's official trailer. It's a trailer for the trailer, yeah.
The world is full of boozies.
I was just like, what
I don't even know what that means, but...
I need dinosaurs.
Shots fired, yeah. Put dinosaurs in. Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, no, I totally get it. And I don't normally get excited about trailers, but like at this Halloween one, it's because I was worried that it was going to be too different, because I don't want too different. We've had plenty of too difference in the Halloween franchise. So I'm cool with going back to the formula, just switching it up a little bit or modernizing it like that. I'm totally fine with that. I love the original, so there's nothing I'd really change in it. So I think I'm the target demographic for this movie.
I agree.
That being said, I'm going to discuss hype and when we get to Hereditary.
Sure.
But I also realize that if I, for some reason, like this movie less because I'm so excited about it, that's my own fault. I think we're adults.
Yeah, but I think it's fun to get excited though.
It
like,
is,
there's not many things that get me excited like
yeah.
that anymore. So it's nice to embrace it. Sometimes it can ruin a movie.
Yeah, it'll
but
fire back at you, but
And genuine Halloween fans are so I guess choked about, like, it's been how many years since an actually decent Halloween? Like, it's been so
20
you talk
40 years.
Yeah, you talk about the director posting pictures with his wife in Cabo or whatever.
That's
I mean, you signed up for that, man. These fans are starving.
And he's just a producer. Like he's he's got a Michael tattooed on his forearm. So I'm like, I trust you.
Like even Nightmare, like he had a new Nightmare, which was awesome.
Loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. And then Freddy vs. Jason, which is
awesome
in
its own
whatever.
way.
But anyways, people who love Halloween are starving for something good. So
it's true.
Yeah, I get the hype. Yeah.
Both Predator and Michael haven't gotten their proper due yet. So. But all right, that's everything we got for pre-feature. We'll be back after this little diddly-do, and we'll get into Hereditary, so stick around. Alright, and the part you've all been waiting for. This is the most excited I've been for a main feature in a long, long time. This is a movie that's sweeping the nations. Like, it's people are talking about it all over the world. And that is 2018's Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster and written by Ari Aster, which this is his first feature-length film, which is insane.
It's crazy to see what you saw.
I know. Coming from a first-time director, it's insane. But the synopsis of Hereditary is, when the matriarch of the Graham family passes away, her daughter's family begins to unravel cryptic and increasingly terrifying secrets about their ancestry. So there's a few things I want to get out of the way before we can continue on. Just so you guys know, this is probably going to be a long feature presentation. We know that this is going to be the meat of the episode, which is different because usually it's the pre-feature stuff is. There's a lot to be said about this movie. A couple things that I'm going to say is that this is a movie that came out of A24, which is a production company which is behind films like It Comes at Night, The Witch, Ex Machina, Under the Skin, Killing of a Sacred Deer, Green Room, and The Blackcoat's Daughter. So if you've been listening to the Terror Table if you've listened to us a decent amount, you know that those are very much my kinds of movies. So I just want to give a special thank you quickly to Jonny and Jeff for being here, because if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to do a main feature on this movie. And I'm really, really happy that we can make it work, because I just know Diego has been out of town. Boozy's been out of town. Diego's been extremely busy, so he hasn't been able to watch it. And I really want to talk about this movie in depth, but we're going to go for it spoiler-free for the first little bit. We'll give you a warning when we're getting to spoilers.
I think it's something that a lot of people really have been like wanting to talk about and really want to share around. So I think that's why this is such a great way to do it. Just like listen to what people have to say about it.
Yeah, love it or hate it, this one absolutely demands a feature.
It's got to be talked about in length. There's so much to unpack in this movie. Yeah. This is by far the most notes I've ever made for an episode. I have an insane.
He's rolling with that thumb is going.
You guys can't. Mitch actually has a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And a PDF file that appears, and
doing a keynote.
It's got a family tree. It's got a family tree of each character.
This is all new to me and Jonny, so we'll try to keep up.
There's a couple nudes. A couple things. Okay, all right. I want to get one thing out of the way. Sorry to keep everyone waiting on this, but I want to have a quick discussion on hype and expectations, because this is a movie that has been receiving an insane amount of hype, and for a lot of people, that can ruin an experience.
Sure.
This is one of the movies that people are, like, right in the trailer, they're saying it's the scariest film, or this generation's The Exorcist, one of the scariest films ever made. All very...
It's so dangerous to do that.
It's very dangerous to say those things.
Like, and they're saying, like, yeah, scariest thing since The Exorcist. Like that it was a landmark. Like, this is what horror films. This is the pinnacle.
Yeah,
and to say, like, it's like that.
Yeah, exactly. And from a movie, like, the trailer, in my opinion, didn't show much. It felt like it actually might show a lot, because a decent amount happens in it. But
it certainly didn't betray anything in the trailer.
It didn't, and it didn't give away too much either.
You really don't know what the story is going to turn into through the trailer.
So with that being said, of course I was excited about this movie because of the amount of praise that it's been getting. It's sat at, like, I think a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes for months. People are talking about it. It's one of those ones that people are walking out at festival screenings of it. And it seemed to be really generating a reaction out of people, which is the most
walking
exciting.
Out because they were scared of it,
scared or disturbed.
Okay. So a couple people walked out of the theater when I was.
Oh, I want to talk about that, because I think this is one to get out of the way, that, like, it's definitely not a movie for everybody. I think it's a dangerous movie to be getting a wider release, but I am so happy that it's getting that.
For sure. So you got a question building up about expectations, and
I just think bottom line for me, and I know that I'm guilty of this, and I think everyone's guilty of it to an extent. I'm going to be a little condescending here, but we're all adults. We can go in, like, if you're going to keep your hype at a reasonable level. You can be excited about a movie, but to say that it's going to destroy your experience from it, like, I know some people are, like, really worried that it's not going to, it's like, what are you worried it's going to live up to? You've seen a 2-minute trailer. Like, you got to make your own opinion on these movies, and I just think it's time for everyone to maybe hop off the hype train a little bit. Just that, like, you can be excited, but don't, like.
But the 2-minute trailer wasn't just footage. It was, like Jonny said, like, it was saying.
It was, yeah.
It was saying that every other horror movie before this, that's not The Exorcist, can't stand toe to toe with this. So I get people getting a little bit carried away. Yeah. But because there was quotes that were kind of like,
how many times have we heard Stephen King say this is the scariest modern movie in the last 20 years? Like, he says that 5 times a year.
And they've all been the scariest movie in the last 20 years.
Exactly.
And the thing is, I feel like it, like, I don't really have a problem with it, but I feel like it can kind of betray the movie too. If it is that good, I want to leave the theater being like, wow, that was the greatest thing I've seen since The Exorcist.
It can damage the film, but also give the directors and the people, the director, the actors, actresses behind the movies some credit. Like, because say it doesn't live up to your expectations that were impossibly high to begin with.
Yeah.
Don't take that out on the people who worked their fucking asses off, because this is a movie that's I know a lot of people are gonna hate. Like, I think it's definitely not gonna land for everybody.
Sure.
Well, if you see it in the theater, you can get the collective opinion of, well, when I was there, it was half the people it did not resonate with.
Yeah.
And this is what we were talking about with the Halloween thing. I don't know how, when I was there, the audience that I was with, it didn't work for a lot of them, and I could tell right after the movie.
What were how could you tell?
Because right after the movie, you heard open cursing.
Oh, okay.
You heard people saying, "What the fuck?"
Oh, really?
I've heard plenty of people say that.
Yeah.
Like say, and people say that was a fucking waste of time.
Yeah.
Really?
Can I just make a quick theater interlude before we get into Hereditary? I know Mitch goes to a lot of horrors in theaters. I am pretty much done with it, and I'm not trying to sound.
Did you have a shitty experience?
Well, it happens every time I'm in a good horror movie, and this is why. Maybe you're desensitized to it. And I'm not trying to sound sexist, but every time it's girls, whenever it's a very tense horror movie.
You disgust me.
I am a disgusting person. But every time it's a very tense horror movie that has no comic relief.
Oh, the laughing when it's not funny.
And that was the least fucking funny movie we've ever seen, Hereditary.
For sure.
God, man.
And that I was lucky enough. We'll get into that, but there was only one part that people were laughing at, and 5. It pissed me off.
It takes me right out of the movie, and I know it's like nervous tension, like they don't know how to react, so they have to laugh, but it takes me right out of the show. I think I'm done with. I'll see shitty horror movies in theaters.
I was nervous about that. I had my friend. We went. I think there was 5 of us that all went, and one friend we had to kind of convince. And I know, and she's like, she definitely doesn't like horrors. Yeah. And I was like, man. And she's kind of like I don't know, not eccentric, but she's like, she definitely laughs off the awkward moments.
There's lots of people use it as a coping mechanism.
Exactly. So I was sitting right next to her. I'm like, oh man, the whole time she's gonna be like, wow, this is dumb, or something to just pull me out of it. But my theater was great. Everyone was just gripped by the whole thing. Maybe it's because it was like a 10:30 show, Friday night. People wanted to be there. That was their Friday night. And when the movie was over, it was just silent. Quiet. Yeah. And everyone just quietly left, maybe talked to their friend a little bit on the way out.
Yeah.
But the one thing I do have to say about the theater experience, yes, there's been some shitty times where people ruin it, but this movie especially, there's a lot of really good sound in it.
Oh yeah.
There's sounds that are traveling all over the theater, and it's so important to watch it with that, because
it's one you should be seeing in a theater.
Yeah, for sure.
As risky as it is, you should be trying to see this one in a theater. And I think none of us have said whether we like it or not. I think the way that we're talking, but okay. So the lead up into that, I'm going to get a little dramatic here. David Robert Mitchell, Mike Flanagan, Robert Eggers, Andre Overdahl, James Wan, and Ari Aster. These are all modern horror filmmakers who have secured their place in history among some of the most legendary horror directors, in my opinion, with one singular movie. I included the director of Hereditary. I fucking loved this movie, like a disgusting amount. Like it's sickening how much I enjoyed it. The reason I want to say that, though, is that those are all directors that are proving that there's so much to be done in this genre. And this is one of the movies that might be one of the crown jewels, even among the names mentioned there. It's insane that this is a first-time director who made this movie. And I personally fucking loved it. It's not going to be for everybody. Like I had mentioned, that it's the A24 production company. So, like, if you generally... Like, I've had a lot of people say, if I hated The Witch, am I going to like this? Completely different movie. But I think this one has a DNA of all of those movies that I mentioned combined into one, and I do think it's one of the most accessible ones of the bunch. I think there's a good chance this is one that's going to be tough. I think you got to go and you got to make your own decision. You got to make up your own mind.
For sure.
It's certainly not a boring movie. If you think it's a boring movie, then like, I don't know if we have much to talk about.
It's not the fastest paced slasher film either.
No.
But it does I'll get into my review in a moment.
Yeah.
Carry on.
But that's what I got from the crowd. Like as much as I sense that they were kind of pulling the hair out and being like, oh my God, what did I just see? And again, I won't get into the ending yet. But I could tell that kind of astonishment and sort of collective awe and confusion was based on their investment in the first 2 hours. So it wasn't like they were bored and being like, I can't believe we stuck through this long. It was just like they can't believe they have to absorb such a fucking mindfuck.
There's so much to absorb.
Yeah.
And even like it's not necessarily, it is a mindfuck, but I think all of it's earned and all of it is explained for the most part if you're paying attention. I still think that this is going to be one that's going to need repeat viewings to fully catch up on everything.
And not a lot of, shouldn't say not a lot of horror films, but many horror films are like, this is what you see is what you get. And, it's cut and dry on what the story was. But there's so many different loose ends sort of that you kind of are, wait, who is connected to, and how does this,
they kind of leave it up to you. Like, you don't know if it's a supernatural movie or if it's just crazy people, psychos, or anything. Like, it's just, the bottom line is that it's not an easy or pleasant film to watch. I think it's one of the most unpleasant movies I've seen in a very long time. We will get into spoilers, but before that, so let's try and avoid all spoiler discussion, just general ideas of how we felt about it. I wasn't sure there's two of my favorite movies this year that I've seen. Within the first half an hour, I thought I was going to hate. And that's Annihilation and this.
Yeah.
But you thought you would hate this? Really?
In the first half an hour, there was just one thing that really pulled me out. And they were like, the thing is, Annihilation was like, this was more forgivable than Annihilation. Like, I just didn't like the musical choices in Annihilation. Like, it felt really out of place for a different day. The tone of that movie is just a little bit all over the place in the first half an hour. This one, it was like, I couldn't, but this isn't a spoiler, but I couldn't buy this boy Peter taking his little sister to a high school party.
Yeah, sure.
That really pissed me off because I was just like, no way. There's no way.
And without argument, at least.
Yeah, without argument. It's just like it's not like you have a normal, like, it's not like you even, can you imagine just taking your little brother or sister, even if they're normal, let alone being a, like, little bit of a fucking weirdo like his sister?
No, I agree,
And so that was hard for me to buy. But then once I got to know their family dynamic more and understood each character, which they give you ample time to do in this movie, they flesh out every character so well, even the ones that are dead. They flesh out, and you know so much about them that even that decision made sense.
Yeah.
Even like that taking place made sense that it would happen.
Because when it happened, I was totally with you. I was like, oh, bullshit. Because I remember...
And it just takes you out.
It does. It
took me out.
But when you start to understand the dynamic of him just trying to, like, avoid confrontation with his mom, right? And that was how so much of his life centers around just whatever. What can I do to just not talk to my mom and placate her? Then it kind of made sense that he dragged, even though she's a weirdo, to this generic high school party. So it didn't actually make sense in the end.
That and the world that this is set in is, I never really I didn't see real bullies in high school, like, or at the least the one that I was at, there wasn't like stereotypical bullies, and there isn't none in this movie. So like him going to the party, you can just see that he's just a pothead who wants to go sit and smoke weed in a room. It's like, okay.
Yeah, just hook up with that girl.
Yeah, and like they didn't set it up for him to be ridiculed if he brought his little sister or anything like that. That's
or her to get picked on or anything like that.
And like that's such a very, very minor gripe to have with the movie, but it's just it's one of those things that just pulled me out.
Yeah, and it wasn't lining up with all the like horror that you saw in the trailer either. It was kind of taking its time with getting to know the characters, and it had a whole different vibe than what you saw in the trailer. Yeah,
totally. So I've shared my thoughts. What are your guys' general thoughts on this movie? Do you want to go first, Jeff?
I loved it. I thought as far as a horror movie goes, in terms of 2018, I didn't see anything I could really take issue with. It didn't feel like an event to me. Like, I remember when Mitch saw it, he walked out and he kind of described it as like, holy shit, it's rare that I actually feel like I leave a horror movie and it's like
you just experienced something special.
Yeah, like it used to be, like the new Radiohead album would be like an event, right?
And I didn't mean it in an event in that way. So what I was meaning by that is, it's kind of like when I left It Follows. I knew that I was like, this is going to be a movie that we're going to be talking about for years.
Yeah,
like that's I did not have that feeling when I left Strangers 2 or Insidious 4, or like even there's just a lot of horror movies like that you just. This one it genuinely felt to me like something completely different than something I've experienced before, and it feels like this one's going to be in the discussion for a very long time.
It was very different, and I totally agree, but I didn't see it as like a generational horror, where like we will tell our kids about it, that sort of thing.
The generation that we're in, it's hard to think of anything that way.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Everything's so disposable. How does anything really stand out?
Exactly,
it's tough.
Sorry, continue.
No, I'm sorry. But that's probably on me, because that goes back to like buying the hype. Here's the main thing I loved. Can I get into it, or are we
get into it?
Go for it.
So after I got home and I thought about every scene, had small signs and clues that sort of led to the overarching themes of the movie, which is grief, family resentment, and even fate.
Yeah.
Right? Every single scene. No scene had sort of a diversion to sort of be like, okay, well, we have to scare them now, so we have to move away from that.
Not a single false scare in the whole movie.
Not one. Mm-hmm. Not one. It was such a commitment to those themes, and there was if you paid attention, and I was picking them up when I drove home, there were so many little things that he was still moving you toward his grand, big picture ideas.
Yeah.
To me, that stands on its own.
And that's going to be one of its downfalls in the mass market, in my opinion, is that people, like, there's teenagers want to go and they want to jump and they want to scream. Yeah. And this movie doesn't do that to you.
No.
It'll be a downfall, because a lot of the scenes that I found scary were because I caught things.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like I'm smarter than anybody else in the theater, but
maybe just watching for things differently.
Totally. Yeah. And you're accustomed to it. And like also, since we've been waiting for this movie for how long, and we've been hearing how good things about it, and just knowing that it's like a film out of A24, I've just been conditioned now to the point where I'm scoping every inch of the screen,
exactly,
looking for things, which I wouldn't do in. I'm not throwing these movies under the bus because I actually like them, but Insidious movies or Saw movies, stuff like that, you don't go into those movies looking for the deeper underlying meaning and everything.
I was doing the same, but it was like, where the fuck are they coming from? What's going to happen? Where's the thing that I'm not catching that is so important that's going to lead to the next thing, so I can mentally be prepared to take this on.
Yeah. No, for sure. To me, I'm guessing you guys will agree on this one. The acting and casting was flawless. I did think Gabriel Byrne was slightly better in End of Days.
The dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't he a priest in that? Or
well, he was Satan.
He was Satan, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a little
End
more,
of Days.
more of an impact for me personally.
I have a question. Does anyone know what he actually did?
He was a doctor in the movie.
Was he? Did we actually ever come across that?
Yeah.
I just remember him sitting behind a desk all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, but what is your job?
They dressed him a couple of times as doctor.
If there was any character in the movie that took it a little bit of a backseat, it's him.
Yeah.
That's one of the gripes.
Sure. And it's minor. He's still an important character, but he's not kind of right at the center of it all.
They put in so much effort, but at the same time, he's not a part of the direct bloodline, which the movie's called Hereditary, so he's not as integral in the story.
Yeah, it is a good point. Just one main thing, like the main thing I loved about Hereditary, and I had to actually write this down because it's so hard to absorb this movie properly, is it's just relentless in terms of how it wants to get under your skin. Like it doesn't subscribe to generic ways to like scare you. So it kind of bases it's fundamentally based on agony, and it accomplishes this without any shortcuts.
Totally.
Like it revolves around a very sad place of incredible sorrow, but
it seems like nonstop with that family.
Yeah, it lets you sit there and it doesn't care. Like Aster is kind of saying, yeah, we know it's a horror and it's horrifying to you, but it's because
it makes you feel every second of it.
Yes, it's because you're connecting this sorrow to something either you fear or something you worry could happen to you.
Yeah.
So it is kind of redefining horror in a way.
I think, and this is a term that gets thrown around too loosely, but like he really is reinventing the wheel a lot in this movie, and it's been a long time. I can't remember the last time I've seen a movie where I've been so convinced that the director was so he put in so much effort to scare you and to unsettle you, and like he actually cared. And he didn't resort to any like normal conventions and ways that you could scare people. He was inventing his own ways of doing it, and he just seemed genuinely dedicated to making the audience as unsettled and uncomfortable as they could be. And he fucking knocked it out of the park, in my opinion.
No, exactly, and that's what did it for me. Like I think he was connecting the whole first, I would say, hour and 50 minutes to something tangible that is usually not seen in horrors. We felt it, we connected it to something almost like Mystic River.
Yeah.
You know, like a deep sense of loss, but it's still intertwined with this horror backdrop.
Yeah.
And last thing before we let Jonny go into it, I guess I was surprised how fate is fleshed out in a really interesting way.
Yeah.
Not to get like really
That's going to be
deep.
something we're going to get into.
Yeah, and again, I will not spoil anything for sure, but it's it's broken down as a product of family curses or trauma that gets passed down generationally. So he's kind of saying it's up to you to believe fate or not, but it's if the bloodline is sort of passing down all this horrible shit, then call it what you want, but that is kind of a form of fate.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and
we'll get into that.
and again, I'm not going to get into specifics.
No,
but
I'm so eager to jump
Yeah,
into that.
yeah, like what Peter's learning about in class. Can I get into that? Is that too early?
No, you can get into that.
It's not-
I don't
it's
think
not
I
ending.
picked
I can't
up on
remember
that.
what it
I don't
was.
think I picked up on that.
Okay, well, I guess my English class is really fresh in my head. He's in class. He's learning about Iphigenia, who is in Greek mythology sacrificed to the gods to help the ships, to help the winds go to Troy. So
Right, yeah.
right. So and then the professor actually poses a question that's really unsubtle, according like most of the movie is quite subtle. This was kind of the least subtle part of the movie.
I didn't pick up on it at all.
The professor says, and I think now when I say it, you'll get it. He says, is it more sad to have a protagonist have a fatal flaw be his undoing, or be the fate, or his fate be his undoing that he has no control over? And it's about halfway through.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll get into, like, it's connected
I was so
to the spoilers.
busy focusing on it's in the trailer, but the part of him looking in the mirror and
Yeah.
smirking.
But-
I was
but-
busy focusing on that, I didn't even hear what he was saying.
Yeah, but yeah, it's he's saying, he's comparing, is it sadder to have something that you've done that's awful be your undoing, or there's something you have no control over that's a version of
And
fate?
I think that's
And
one of those.
The student even answers it, actually. So.
Really? Okay. So I think that's one of those things that's glaring to people like you and me and probably Jonny, who like are looking for those things. I didn't notice that part.
Yeah, I
Well,
didn't notice it.
I'm an English guy, so I kind of caught it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys will catch stuff that I didn't catch, but to me that was like, and we'll all connect it to the spoilers, but that was,
You felt that was pretty on the nose?
yeah.
So I can't say that it was because I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
Now, that's when I realized the movie's really a big picture thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it, and those are my spoiler-free observations. Jonny, I'm really curious. We don't know what Jonny thinks.
Johnny's the only one that we don't know how he felt about it.
Yeah, I was
And
trying
be
to
honest, if you hated it, be honest.
I was trying to avoid what these guys had to say about it as they're posting it online everywhere, and I was trying to go in with very low expectations, even though I was super excited to see it. And when I left the theater, I honestly didn't know what to think because there were so many things happening. Like I think I expected one thing and it gave me something else because it took time to digest it.
Yeah.
And once I went home and started kind of piecing it together, I saw how this kind of slow burn, not a slow burn, but it's very patient in the way it goes through the movie, how masterful that was, how it made me feel something for every character, how it made you say, I don't actually know what the issue is right now. I don't know what's scaring me. I don't know what's the problem with the family. I don't know anything. And it takes you in like 10 different options, like could be that, could be that, could be that. So you weren't also, often in horror films, there's like, oh, someone's doing the killing. Okay, well, who's the person who's not really talking but is kind of a main character?
Yeah, who's behind all this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can start pointing our fingers. And you couldn't really do that in this movie because you didn't even really know what you were looking for.
Yeah.
And so I think that threw me off. And so once I was trying to digest it, I'm like, hey, I got to take that and I've got to see why I feel that way. And is that a good thing? And so, yes, I loved this movie in the end. But it took me some time to get there. At first, I just kind of had to sit with it for a bit.
Yeah. And I think that's from what I've heard and my experience is I finished that movie and I leaned over to my friend Dallas came with us and he hated it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he doesn't like he's just my best friend. He goes through stuff for me. He's not passionate about horror in the slightest. But he's like, oh yeah, I hated that. He's
really?
like, I'll never watch that again. I was like, oh, I'll never watch it again either. Like that's what I said to him. I was like, there's no way I'll watch that movie again. I was like, but it was like that's amazing that I just saw a movie that I'm never gonna watch again. Yeah. And then an hour later, after Courtney and I have been talking about it, I'm like, I want to go tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
Like I can't wait to see this movie again. And like we talked about it we went at the 7:00 showing. We were up till midnight talking about it.
Yeah.
And then we woke up and we were making breakfast and we're still talking about it. I'm like, Courtney, this is fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
But, like we saw a movie that we're still unpacking and that's amazing. And I love that you had that experience too, that like, because the thing is, it's not an enjoyable movie at all. Like
there's so much, the whole thing is just kind of, you're not like, good for them, let's have an up moment. And it's not like it's drab for the sake of being drab the whole time. It's just circumstance that keeps fucking with you the whole time.
Yeah. I and that's the thing too, is I think we talked about this on So Be It, and I've talked about it many times on here that I'm desensitized at this point. Like after watching all these movies, like I dedicate my life to this stuff pretty much. My feet were a puddle at the end of this movie. Like I was fucking, and like I didn't realize I was clenching.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. Like the last time that's happened to me was like backcountry at home, but like in the theater with strangers.
Yeah.
Like, and not to say that this movie's as scary as Strangers or whatever, because I didn't necessarily think it was like, it's not necessarily scary. It's creepy.
Yeah.
And it's genuinely chilling.
Yeah.
It's a chilling movie. It's chilling and it's disturbing.
Yeah.
And it's miserable. It is such an unpleasant experience.
I did check in with myself at one point, kind of after there's a major incident, about 30 minutes in, and about 10 minutes later, I was still kind of curled in this awkward ball, and I was like,
I Home Aloned it.
Yeah.
Even Courtney said to me, she's like, I've never seen you react like that. And she's been with me for 2 years watching. I've made her watch thousands of movies.
Yeah.
She's like, I've never seen you have a reaction. I literally went. I stuck there. Like I'm doing the Macaulay Culkin on the cover of Home Alone, and then I was pulling my face. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then the movie changes completely from there, and
Yeah.
then it changes again 20 minutes later, and then it changes again.
Yeah, that's a thing. And like you were saying, Jeff, I love the that every scene had its dedication, but wasn't forcing you into it. Mm-hmm. It was just the little things that kind of kept the story going to where it needed to go in the end. And it was those subtle things, everything that just wasn't quite right, that you kind of question, but you go, maybe that was nothing. Maybe that's just the movie being weird. But all these little things kind of kept steering you on the ship to where it wanted you to go, but you really had no idea if anything meant anything and where it was really trying to go.
Yeah, some of it was small things they were saying. Other times it was like visuals that you had to try to piece together in terms of what you saw before.
There's symbolism.
Yeah, but yeah, every scene had something building toward what you knew would be something completely fucked up in the last half or third or whatever, and it did not disappoint.
And we only spent a very I think Jeff, you said it. You said, or maybe I don't know, it doesn't matter. But simply said the acting was great. I think we need to take a moment on that.
That's literally what I was just because before we get into spoilers, there's like two last things I'm going to get this out of the way quickly. Then we'll talk about the acting, and then we'll go into spoilers. But what's important for me to say is that I feel like this movie is potentially very triggering for a lot of people. There's like I said, it got a genuine reaction out of me. There's a lot of very heavy things, heavy tones in this movie. I even talked to like a friend of the show and like just one of my friends, and it was not an amazing experience for them because of it brought up some negative energy or negative thoughts about their past. And it's very heavy on the family drama.
Yeah.
They don't turn away from it for a second.
No. And
it's all sold in such an authentic way because of the cast. And that's what I'll just say right now. I know like Toni Collette is that is one of the best that is one of the best performances I've seen in the horror genre.
Yeah,
completely. And
she was awesome, and not over the top. I almost expected her to go a little over the top with it, but she didn't.
No, and I want to quickly say to listener David Hopkins, friend, he's at Erie International. Him and I we're pretty much the same person, so I know he said a lot of this stuff already.
There's two Mitches out there.
Yeah, I know, it's disgusting.
Jesus.
But I just want to say it's been known that me and David agree on a lot of things. But I felt all these ways. So when I saw him writing down certain things, I was like, yes, that's exactly how I felt. And it's just like, so I'm not stealing your thoughts. I just that we're on the same page. Okay. Toni Collette was fucking unbelievable in this movie.
Perfect.
And to the point where she should be getting recognition come Oscar season.
But this is what Jonny was saying earlier. Like it's always like horrors and comedies always get kind of shoved aside. So you hope that doesn't happen here, but it happens every fucking year.
But at the same time, last year Guillermo del Toro won Best Director. Yeah. Jordan Peele won Best Screenplay for Get Out.
But never Best Picture though.
No, and
or Best Actor.
I think was Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs was the last horror movie to get a Best Picture, and it was the last and only.
But they called it a thriller, right? So.
Wasn't Shape of Water the Best Picture?
I think it was. It?
Yeah, I think Shape of Water was. Yeah.
Oh, it might have been. Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, but
it's still
it wasn't really.
I think The Shape of Water isn't a horror movie compared to Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, no. And it's just the director definitely. He sits in that world.
It's rooted in the realm of horror in a sense. But I'm certainly not expecting Best Picture out of this movie.
No,
even though I think it should be a contender.
Yeah, it should definitely be up for consideration. It shouldn't just get thrown to the side because it's in the horror genre.
But we can agree. I think it's fair to see Collette.
She has to. Yeah. She has to.
Unless someone blows us out of the water, I think she should from now to.
It's the performance of her career, and she's had an insane career.
Yeah, she's so underrated. For 2018, I've seen nothing that compares to it. So I would be a little sad if she didn't get recognition for this
so
one.
early, though. That's the only thing. Sometimes when it's this early,
exactly,
they don't consider them until October.
Yeah. But also, it's cool that people across the world who are seeing this movie, almost everyone is saying Toni Collette is amazing in that movie. So it's like she's a standout. Yeah. But I think one of the characters that doesn't get as much recognition because he doesn't have as much screen time is Alex Wolff, who plays Peter the son. That kid was fucking unreal in this movie.
Yeah. And you don't think he's really supposed to even be, like, you know, in the trailer, you don't see a lot of him. No. But then in his screen time here, he kills it.
I'm glad you guys brought that up because he's the only one out of the main nucleus that doesn't get talked about.
Yeah.
The young girl and, both parents get blown pretty consistently, but he's almost left out. So I'm glad.
And I think he essentially has the most heavy part of this movie.
The heavy lifting definitely comes
because, and this isn't a spoiler, but Aster, one of his main techniques is when something brutal happens, he zooms in on someone's face.
Fuck.
For 20 seconds
just
straight,
let you sit on
but it feels like hours.
It does feel like hours, but he lets their eyes tell you everything. Well, ideally, their eyes tell you everything that they're going through, and he almost has that happen the most.
That's such a dangerous technique if your actors can't pull it off.
It's very dangerous, and he is I think that's thrust upon him the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up because that's his main go-to. And what's his name?
Alex Wolff. And don't get him confused with Nat or Nate Wolff because that's his brother.
Okay.
So that's even Courtney said. Have you guys seen Death Note? It's on Netflix.
Yeah. No.
Like the live action one. His brother is Nat Wolff. He's in Death Note. This is him.
Right.
Wow. He's identical, but his mole is in a different spot.
Yeah, his is on the other side, I think.
Yeah. But it's just like, holy fuck, those are two different people. And like Alex Wolff is the Alex Wolff who's in Hereditary. He's like 4 years younger than him, I believe. Oh. Yeah, and he's an amazing actor, and I can't wait to see more from him.
And that technique, to me, was such a small criticism, but I feel it's a bit of a crutch where anytime something really impactful happens on the screen, the face is kind of they just sit on the face, and I'm sorry, the camera sits on the face, and it happens a little too often, just a very little too often, but it works every time.
Yeah, I was totally okay with it. Yeah. I think it was nice to spend the time with that instead of the obvious choice of show the monster. Not that there's a monster to show in any of these moments, but it's like, as soon as you see it, then you're like, oh, it's real. But let your mind deal with what they're dealing with.
And even when there's no monster, like when it's just a horrible dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's just a back and forth. Like he has to sit there and project what he's feeling over the kitchen table, for example.
Yeah.
So, and he did it. Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that it's a common criticism, like for people who are outside of the genre who really, really love a horror movie, but they don't want to call it a horror movie. Like even the Babadook took this, if you guys have seen that, but people say it's more of a family drama or it's a thriller. It's like, no, Hereditary is undoubtedly a through and through horror movie. Yeah. It just it spends so much time that I love that. I think I wouldn't listen to someone who said otherwise because it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like this is a straight up fucking horror movie. It just so happens to be at like one of the highest calibers we've seen in a very long time. So, closing thoughts on this before we get into spoilers, because there's so much to unpack. I can't believe we've gone this long without spoilers. But I'll just say that I do think that this is a generational movie. I think that like it being compared to The Exorcist isn't an unfair assumption. In my opinion, it is like, I can see where I can see how that's a lot of hype to be putting behind this movie, but it deals with a lot of the same themes, and you feel a certain way during The Exorcist. This movie, it could be played back to back with The Exorcist. Mm-hmm. Like it's got moments of similarities, and just the general craft of the movie, it's one of the best horror movies I've seen in years. In my opinion, is that I think this is a very strong movie. It's going to come up in conversations, just like I talk about The Witch, just like I talk about It Comes at Night. Those types of movies. It Follows. I think every year we get one of these movies. Like last year was Killing of a Sacred Deer. If you guys haven't seen that, it's on Netflix. It's fucking amazing.
No, it's garbage.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
You hated it?
Like 2 out of 10.
Okay.
Wow.
The movie.
I have not watched it, so I'm excited to
it's unreal.
Sit somewhere in the middle, I'm sure.
No, it is so good. That, and even Mother. Mother is a lot like so to answer for people, a lot of people are wondering if they're not fans of The Witch or movies like that, should they even bother with this movie? What do you guys think? You guys both seen The Witch?
Yeah.
And neither of you were particularly crazy about it.
No. But
you liked it, but
do you think that's a good comparison to The Witch? Like,
I think it's got the same like tension to it. I think it's got the kind of the same build. It doesn't have as much of that. I know it's scary, but it doesn't have the same kind of fear factor that The Witch did. But I think if you suggested, oh, you like that, you would love this. I think that's a fair. So I think it's a fair one to.
It is, but I definitely think that this is going to be a movie that more people. It's definitely more accessible.
Yeah,
like just because it's not like it's straight up English.
Yeah.
And this is why I disagree with Mitch in terms of the generational thing. I think we've all described Hereditary as a creepy, unsettling movie, but it's not. I don't think like, and I'm not a seasoned horror fan like Mitch, and you aren't either. Were you truly terrified in the last?
Keep in mind that you're full grown adults now.
I know,
yeah,
but
you guys are
I was
going
to comment on this too.
But it was almost a real commitment to. It was a very hardcore commitment to almost a family drama, and it worked extremely well. But it never made me terrified. Like you guys are talking about the Home Alone moments. I never felt.
That was just shocking. That was shocking.
Oh,
It wasn't
okay.
scary.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
shocking.
But in the last bit where everyone was talking about it going off the rails, did you guys really feel like you couldn't even like look away?
No,
but you wanted to look away. Like Exorcist to me is like holy fucking shit.
It's a hard assumption.
I can't deal with what's on the screen. And this was when it went crazy. It was like
There's a moment in this climax that I'm like, how can like for me I was like, this is it's gonna be a while till I get that image out of my head.
yeah, and I know the image.
I know what you're talking about too, but that was a pretty short.
If you would have seen that when you were at the same age that you saw The Exorcist, it would fuck you up harder than The Exorcist did.
Let's go to spoilers.
But
because
I've got one last thing to say before we jump into it. Just the fact that I didn't find myself super scared when I left the theater, and there are movies that still do that. The Conjuring movies do that to me, like because I think it sets closer to, well, they always have the bring it back to reality. This is what actually happened, and you're like, oh fuck. So I think it did miss that part for me. Like, oh, not that. I guess I did expect to come out of there like I'm not sleeping tonight, and I'm gonna be like seeing like ghosts in the corners of the bedroom. That I didn't feel. I was totally fine with it after I left, but I did really enjoy it. But that was one thing I just expected to be more scared. But I do think it will last. As a generation movie, I think it will go right with the ones you were saying. I think it'll be there because we're all so excited to see it. Lots of people are cramming into theaters to go see this. So no matter what, it's just created discussion based on that. So that adds enough hype around it for I think it to last around.
Totally. And there's not really any glaring noticeable flaws.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing too, is that like, so I feel like the general conversation that I have with most horror fans these days is it didn't really scare me, but it was effective or something like that. Like, and I think that this is extremely effective.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to scare a lot of people.
Yeah. There was oh shit moments and I definitely felt like but it wasn't. Yeah, it just wasn't the thing that carried on until once the movie was over.
Honestly, the family dynamic was the scariest part of it.
Yeah,
like it's the real human aspects of the movie are the potentially scariest parts about the movie too.
Yeah.
But are you guys ready to get into spoilers? Okay, so everyone, this is your time to check out. There's a 3 out of 3 recommendation that this is worth paying money to go and see.
Yeah, see it in theaters. It's well worth it.
And we'll be right back. We're just gonna hop into spoilers. So I'm gonna give you a 5-second countdown. At 1, we're going into spoilers. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. All right, so let's get into this now. So let's go through the entire movie. Let's try our best to go from start to finish. Do either of you guys want to lead this off?
Johnny?
I'm trying to think of the first scene.
Let's just start with the grandmother.
The grandmother died. Yeah, right. So,
but that's not a spoiler. That's right in the beginning.
No, but let's just go.
Spoilers.
We'll go through the whole thing. And we'll just pick away at it.
You guys go hard.
Okay, I don't think we're gonna be able to do that.
No,
but let's just. Okay, so I just think. Okay, so where to start this?
I think where the family is after grandma dies.
So the grandma dies, and then Toni Collette is basically not really grieving about it.
Yeah.
Like she's not upset about it as much as she thinks she should be. And they show that they had a very unorthodox family and an upbringing. And where you really get to know the history of the family is Toni Collette attends a grief counseling meeting, much like an AA meeting. She just tells her husband she's going to see a movie, but she goes to this place. And she basically unloads, and that's the first time we see Toni Collette be a complete fucking acting maverick.
Yeah.
And she explained, like, just watching, it's like, it's unbelievable that there was a script for that.
Yeah.
To me, like, the way that she's explaining how her mother had DID, which is dissociative,
identity disorder.
Yeah. So basically, split personalities is a common sense, like, that's really what it is. She explains that her brother was schizophrenic and he killed himself when he was 16
because mom was trying to put
people in him.
Yeah, put people in him. Yeah,
and that's a very crucial point that you don't really.
It's quick. Like
it's so quick.
Throwing the stuff.
Yeah,
out quick.
They definitely, in my opinion, they don't spoon feed you anything. Like,
no.
Well, there's a couple times, like you said, you mentioned the one part that I didn't pick up on. For the most part, I feel like it's very subtle. And they definitely don't. They don't wait for you to catch on to these things.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the movie's just so memorable in so many different ways that it just you'll start thinking about it. I don't know. It's just the way of the language of the movie just resonates, and it makes you be like, oh right, because she said this. It's like the dialogue is so engaging that you don't miss a second of it.
And it's enough to hold on to the little. Wait, what did she say there? Okay, and so you're like trying to pull back to it and say, like, was that important? Should I be hanging on to it? But it's enough to kind of almost earmark it for you.
Exactly, yeah.
Say,
and
like,
even the way that she's talking at that meeting leads you to believe that she might be a little crazy herself.
Yeah.
That she might just have some next level issues.
Yeah.
And from having an overbearing mother, because she explains that her mother moved in with her family when she got sick.
I can't remember what made her move in, but it was years after not speaking.
Yeah,
they kind of had cut off the family, and she had cut off the family she had cut mom out of the family after she had her son.
Yeah,
because she didn't want her mom around the son, right?
Yeah, because it's something to do with her brother. Like it was to do with her brother, was it not? Like
I would assume, like, didn't want her to.
Fuck with him.
Fuck with him the way she did the brother.
Well, no, yeah, and they that might even be assuming too much on our side. But like, I think, like, I know I put the idea out there. What am I trying to get at here? There's so much to unpack in this movie that I'm losing my thoughts. Trying to.
Well, that's the thing, and that's kind of the way the movie goes. It's like so many things are happening. Like, wait, was it important when she had that weird look? The girl had the weird look with the guy at the funeral. Was that important?
Oh, and that was, and I love that.
Yeah, and there's all these little things, and
it's just there's a whole there's an aura to this movie that's just strange and unsettling.
Yeah.
And she even says, like, in her eulogy about her mother, she's talking about how she hosted these private rituals and she was a very private person. So that instantly you're thinking, like, rituals, is it going to be like witchcraft stuff, or is it? And then she talks about her, like, she gets into her identity disorder, and it's just like, no, she was a little crazy, and she was very hesitant to let people close, but the people that she was close with, she was very close with.
Yeah.
And how basically her, like, one of the key parts of the movie is that her mother she basically forced the grandma forced Annie, Toni Collette's character, to let her breastfeed the little girl.
Yeah, which
is weird as fuck.
And she makes a little miniature diorama of it.
And that's another thing. Yeah, and that's one that I haven't fully been able to unpack. Like, I'm not going to claim to be smart enough to pick up on every single thing in this movie.
The dioramas in general? Or?
Yeah, but the thing is, one thing they touch on is that Paimon, who's going to come up again, the demon that we're going to be talking about, the leader of hell, or whatever they want to call him.
Yeah. The gatekeeper of hell, I think.
Like, but he had something to do with, they mentioned him in arts. Like, he was like an arts-driven god or something like that, or like demon.
I think he found his energy through that or something like that.
Like, I sound like an idiot there, but people are probably
I'm
screaming.
I'm definitely not seeing this now.
Through arts?
Yeah, like
so he didn't get a job, basically.
What? He didn't get a job, yeah. But no, like, so
I didn't catch that at all, actually. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's, if you search up payment. I'm just gonna. If you guys want to just take it away from here a little bit, I'm gonna look this up.
Sure.
I'm not really sure. Like and I think this is might be where you're going. I'm not really sure. I was gonna ask you guys what we really thought the dioramas meant. Like what were it was such a main focus. What was that just her outletting her?
The spirit can teach all arts and sciences. Is what it is.
Okay.
That's what payment is.
Okay.
It can teach all of that. So,
Definitely no job then.
yeah. So I'm wondering what their
I don't know what riches they're going to get from this.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you guys that because obviously the diorama part was such a huge part of it, but I never was able to connect it with the central themes of the show.
That's kind of what I was looking for. It was definitely incredibly creepy. It was, I think, just her way of dealing with the terrors of her life.
It might just be that. It might just be her sort of relating. First of all, her mind is in a horrible spot, and I think it's like a visual way of showing where her mind is compartmentalizing this stuff. And
that's what many artists do, right? That's how that's what they do the art for.
Exactly, and I think that's why the husband had a lot of leeway. Mm-hmm. But when he saw her actually recreate the highway car crash, he was like, "Wow, there's a mental break here."
Yeah.
All right, let's skip to that.
Yeah, let's
so
just go.
That's one. So when you watch the trailers, you have no. There's no reason for you to believe that that little girl Charlie is not going to be the main character in the movie.
100%. I thought I was led the whole time. I'm like, here we go. She looks kind of weird, and she looks like she's going to control this film, and she looks like the right person for it.
Yeah.
No. It's the kid.
It is. It's the boy, kid. And that's the other thing too. Is that's a whole subject unto itself of how the demon needs to possess a male host,
or prefers to.
Yeah, but I think in order to fully embody a human flesh, it needs to be a male.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it was transferred into Charlie, and then the whole plan was to eventually get it into Peter.
Yeah.
And but that's one of the main things. So let's kick off with that because that's really where the movie starts flowing.
Yeah.
And so the son wants to go to a party for this high school party. And Annie, the mom, Tony Collette, says that it's okay for him to go as long as he takes Charlie with him. And she doesn't want to go at all. And she's very antisocial. They show that she had a very strong relationship with her grandmother, except for her grandmother always wishes that she was a boy. Yeah. She mentions that. And she says, "Who's going to take care of me after you die?" Yeah. So that's another thing that's an unsettling scene at first. It's just one of those creepy the Omen moments.
And she's very in touch with some sort of dark world. You see her seeing some pretty weird things, some pretty weird people are around her. There's I don't know if that seance that she kind of saw in the forest was real or not. Yeah. As her mom found her kind of wandering away from the house, but there's a lot of weird things happening with her as well.
And I think that was real. Now I forgot about that part. And now that I think about it, because they touch on that, this is jumping ahead, but the cult had to be the one who put the corpse in the attic.
Yes, 100%.
So they just were floating around and they didn't even notice.
I'll go there later.
Yeah, go slow.
No, go ahead.
Well, I don't know.
So go back to the car crash.
Okay, so he goes to this high school party, and he's basically wants to go smoke a bowl in this room with this chick that he wants to finger. And he says, just eat the cake. There's some teenagers making a cake, so he's like, hey, go have some chocolate cake.
She loves chocolate, by the way.
Yeah, she loves chocolate.
And in the darkest moments.
Yeah. But my first thought, and that's why I said it audibly out loud, Courtney, she looked over because I was just like, oh, fuck. Because I thought they were making space cakes. I thought that, and I was like, oh, she's going to trip balls.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even notice that what they were cutting up was nuts, and she has a nut allergy. So what happens is that her throat starts closing up. You guys, if you're sticking around, you've seen the movie. I don't need to spoon feed this to you, but she has an allergic reaction. Peter has to rush her to the hospital, so he gets in the car and he starts driving. And they show you, they showed us the drive towards the party, and they kind of sort of emphasized on one of the light posts that there's a symbol that comes up. Did you guys pick that up? There's a symbol on it. Yeah. Which eventually becomes the very... She has the allergic reaction. She peeks her head out the window because she can't breathe, and she's trying to get air. And there's a dead deer on the highway.
I can't remember what, but something in the road.
Yeah, something like that. And he swerves. Her head flies off. Knocks her fucking head off. So we see a 12-year-old girl, 12, 13, however old she is, That's devastating.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
That was my Home Alone moment.
Yeah, that's where I was like,
oh fuck.
in a ball, like just like with my mouth dropped
Yeah.
open as well.
And
Just-
then that's where you said like I don't know how long they hold the camera on Alex Wolf's face.
And it's not just in the car. It's when he goes back home to bed, right? It's just a
Yeah.
still shot.
yeah, it's
And
yeah.
because that's
and it's so effective. It's so effective.
it is. And like even I know Courtney had issues. She's just like, it's just weird how he went home and just didn't say anything. I'm like, what do you do
What
in
do
that
you do?
situation?
You don't know how you
Like,
would
yeah,
react.
and it's like he had no choice.
Yeah.
Like also he was high as fuck.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that he just killed his sister, and even at that
Yeah.
moment where he just like says Charlie, like he's pretending like he's like, this is a dream, this
Yeah.
isn't happening,
Yeah.
and then he just drives away.
and the fact that we're talking about that holy shit moment where our mouths are open, like we were shocked just from watching it in a movie, and then they go straight to his face and we watch it and my mouth's still open, so I'm
I
like,
know.
what the fuck are you gonna do? He's like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
it was almost like my face was being mirrored up there and we were just like patiently waiting in the silence. What the fuck are we gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? And you're just waiting there, and then it was an amazing moment, so powerful the way that he portrayed it. Like even I think there's even a tear. Like it's just like you saw his mind go through a lot of different things, and then the car starts pulling away, and you're like, holy fuck.
I know. It's like, and that's where it's just, it was misery beforehand, but now it's a whole new level of bleak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when she goes back to the crash scene, or the camera cuts back to it, and it shows, like Mitch said, it's on the pole, like the exact same
Yeah, the symbol.
on
It's
the
symbol
neck.
of
It's on the
payment.
necklace. That's when my mind jumped back to the professor talking about fate, and that's when I also realized I'm like, she was actually designed to die.
Yeah. And
Like,
that's what
there was nothing accidental. about
exactly,
that.
and that's what initially I thought. It was just like it was obviously an accident, because how does that happen? But
Yeah.
that if that deer was set up there so perfectly, it was totally fate. But that's just like a very heavy way to start. Like there's still another hour and a half in the movie after
Yeah.
that, so
Yeah.
she's barely a part of this movie.
And I was kind of upset when that happened too. Like, of course I was upset by that, but I
As
was
you
like,
should be.
but I mean, like, I was upset that her character was gone.
I
I'm
know,
like,
because
I thought she was the movie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
they-
think I've read some people have that gripe where they thought that she was the most interesting part of the movie, and my response to that is I think that
I don't agree with that. At
I don't-
all.
think they
don't-
just- go ahead.
yeah, I don't agree with that either. I just think that they wanted a different movie than what they got.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's it. And then when you have to realize it's not that, and
Yeah.
like I kind of felt that, so I think you just have to realize it's not that. And the fact that I was drawn to the character, well, they just did good casting, and
Yeah.
and she did an amazing job for the parts that she did.
totally.
Yeah,
And that opens up a floodgates of like how you watched how the death really wasn't the death of the grandma wasn't really affecting Annie, but the death of her daughter was she was just completely wrecked.
and she was. I've got some questions about this because she was trying to protect them a lot, like from their grandma, and trying to keep them away.
Yeah.
But there's even the point where she tells the story of where she was about to light the kids on fire.
Yeah, that's an important part too.
And I'm like, my questions go out to, because I haven't really had anyone to talk about this. Is that her mind knowing something's going on and I need to continue protecting them, and maybe that's by killing them and protecting the. Like,
It's almost her like subconsciously fighting back, because
Yeah.
I think like most people who have experienced something traumatic, they block a lot of things out from their past. They'll block out, and a common side effect to that is sleepwalking. Like people have that, and like she explains how she's sleepwalking when she's doing those things. But what Johnny's talking about here is that she at one point sleepwalked and then went into her kids' rooms and doused both of them in, was it gasoline or kerosene? Paint thinner, yeah. Paint thinner, and then she had the box of matches ready to light them up.
Yeah.
And that's also just like, how fucking bleak is this movie gonna
Yeah.
get? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about burning her fucking kids
yeah.
alive.
And then they kind of jump back to it later in the movie when she's having an argument with her son.
The dinner scene, which is my favorite part of the movie.
No, I mean the that is great, but she's sleepwalking again, but it's actually it's a whole dream. But she's yelling at her son, saying, "I didn't want you, and I was trying to get rid of you."
That was the biggest reaction I heard in my theater.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people were audibly gasping.
Yeah.
And like one guy behind me was talking. He's like, "You've got to be kidding me."
Yeah.
He was like, "Fuck," and he kept on being like, "Fuck you." But like it wasn't even in like a disrespectful way to like this movie sucks. It's
Yeah,
just
like,
he was
fuck
so
right
into
off.
it where he's
Yeah.
just like, you bitch.
Yeah.
It's like that was such a like an upsetting scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, you guys didn't talk about this when her daughter's head was blown off?
Yeah.
Like, and then you see her head on
Yeah.
the side of the road
Yeah.
being covered in ants.
Yeah. Ugh. But then there was, they did jump back to that, the kitchen, or when the dining table scene. That was an amazing explosion of acting just happening on all fronts.
It was a clinic.
Yeah.
That was like, I mentioned, I think I talked about this on your guys' podcast, but one of my favorite moments in film a couple of years ago was in The Conjuring 2, the scene where
Elvis.
Patrick
Yeah.
Wilson
Elvis.
plays the
Yeah.
Elvis song.
Yeah.
And it's like, because it brings a humanity back to the supernatural movie, or like there's so much chaos, it gives you a moment to breathe. And
Yeah.
he's like, this movie does exactly that, but in the opposite way, with the same
And
result.
Yeah.
The same result is that it shows this is like bare bones. This is what the family's going through. This is the tension that's between all of them. It's what's going on in all of their heads, and the dad just has to watch it all happen.
Yeah.
It's like this guy won the lottery for world's shittiest fucking luck.
Yeah.
like landing up in this family
Yeah.
with this, like, because that's the thing, like Jeff said, that this is all like very based on fate. Like, this was all planned out. You see that at the very beginning too, when she's opening up her mother's assets, and she has a book that says basically that there's going to be a lot of sacrifices in the family, but all of it's going to be worth it. It's going to pale, like the sacrifices will pale in regards to the rewards or something.
Yeah.
I've only seen the movie once. I need to see it again. This is all coming from three guys who have seen the movie once, and this is obviously a movie that you need to see multiple times.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best. But it's so much to unpack. But yeah, and that's where you see the scene where Alex Wolff said, like, where he's basically being blamed for, like, if it was his fault that his little sister and her daughter died, and then he finally pipes back and says, "You were the one who told her to go."
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
why
just
was
like,
she
oh,
even there? Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
And that about 3 days before I saw Hereditary, I watched Walk the Line
Yes.
again,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
But that scene actually, again, when I was driving home, I kind of related, and that's the cool thing about Hereditary, is it connects itself to hardcore dramas, right?
Totally.
And there was a scene in Walk the Line, and it's my favorite scene, where he's having supper with his dad, and this is when he's very famous and everything, and Cash is fucked up and he's drunk, and he says, the dad makes some poor comment about the house he lives in or whatever, like it's all empty, and he said to the dad, do you remember what you said to me when, I forget his brother's name, but when we found my brother dead? And his dad said, yeah, where were you? And then Jonny,
Wrong kid died that day.
what's that?
Wrong
Wrong
kid
kid.
died that day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wrong kid died.
And then it's Robert Patrick, and he looks him right in the eye and he goes, yeah, where were you? And then Cash says, well, where were you?
Yeah.
And I kind of thought of that in the scene where Peter, she just unloads on him, right? And she blames him for everything. She blames him for being irresponsible to the party. And then he kind of just shrugs his shoulders while crying. And then he says, well, you let her go to the party.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the brilliance of Hereditary, is it connects itself, especially in the first, 110 minutes, to all these movies like that,
Totally.
that have these scenes that pull you away into family dramas, and you would never expect that from a horror, where in the fucking trailer there's a guy on fire,
Yeah.
and there's all these comparisons to The Exorcist, but it always brings it back to that family agony.
Yeah, it's the
resentment.
core of the movie.
Yeah. And I'm glad I saw Walk the Line a few days before, because I would never made that connection.
Yeah.
There's even to kind of not resemble that, but to show kind of the agony, and it was such a great moment when I forget where he's coming home from the son. He comes home and he's got his bike. He ditches his bike out front, and he's standing at the door just waiting.
Like he has to brace himself to go in.
Yeah, and the mom is sitting in the car watching this.
And then she drives away right away.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're just avoiding each other, but just it felt so real. I could see like what they were going through. It wasn't just like, oh, things must be tough. It's like we got to watch them go through it and what that really would look like.
If you see his hands in that scene, he's actually like shaking to like psych himself up to go into
yeah.
the house, and that you're right. That's so impactful.
Totally. And there's like multiple times in the movie where he asks her like, "Why do you hate me?" Mm-hmm. Like, and that's just such a.
Well, one of them in the dream, and then one of them at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Which I agree is the best scene.
Yeah, it's just, and that's where like you see like Toni Collette's like eyes change in that movie.
Yeah.
Like in that scene, it's wild.
I love it. I think we talked about it right at the very beginning of this, but like it keeps you guessing the whole time, as in you're like, is this just all in her head? Is this just a psychological fuck that's happening throughout this movie?
And it totally could have been that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And or is this supernatural? What are we playing with here? We don't know which way it's going. You do see that there's like some sort of like sigil put on in the grandma's room on the floor, and so you're like, oh, maybe some witchcraft. What are we dealing with? Maybe the mom's just fucked up and this is all in her head, and grandma had some weird hobbies. Yeah, like you didn't really know where it was going to play out.
Totally. And like that's a good time to mention one of the most important characters in the movie that you didn't think about at all because of the trailers, but is Ann Dowd's character Jonny, who she waves her down after she drives away from a second grief meeting, and she makes you believe that she was there the first time, which I don't know if you guys watch like The Leftovers or like, no. Oh, it's a fantastic HBO show, but like I know Ann Dowd very well, so I was like, I would have noticed her sitting there. She wasn't in that class.
I couldn't. She was not memorable enough to know whether or not she was in there.
No, and also like because I went into this movie scaling every single inch of the screen, so I was like, no, Ann Dowd wasn't in there in that scene, and she explains to her that she like was there and she needs to keep going because it helps, and she catches her in a vulnerable situation where she talks about how her son died, and she develops this relationship out of her, and you don't know until the end. That was my only thing, is that was. She goes to her apartment. Let's just skip right to the seances, because there's the fact that we can talk about like literally every 20 seconds of this movie is insane. Yeah. Let's just go over the main parts here. Yeah. But she goes to her apartment because she basically, in the long run, explains to her that she found a way to get in contact with her son. Like how she found this. She heard about this ad or something like that, and you see that ad go into her doorway at Annie's house, like where it's like saying something about, have you lost a loved one or something. And that's where I kind of felt like, it was like, is this where it's going to take me out of the movie? Because I don't believe in any of that stuff at all. Yeah. But weirdly enough, like, spoiler, it's all witch stuff. This is all witches. And I also got to point out, I don't know if you guys have listened to enough episodes to know that I love witch movies.
Oh, really?
I like witches are like my fucking jam.
Oh, nice.
And 3 of my favorite movies this year have been witch movies.
Oh, well, there you go.
And I'm like, yes, let's make it 10. Let's
keep going.
Let's make
for proof of this, Mitch actually liked Lords of Salem, which is absolute shit.
I found merit in Lords of Salem. I enjoyed some
which is shocking. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I love witches. But yeah, and then she goes to her apartment and she sees her floor mat that says just like "Welcome, Jonny," or
just says her name. I believe. Yeah.
But she's like, "Oh, my mom made these mats just like this," and she's like, "Oh, that's weird." And then they just keep going.
I think that's where I checked in at that moment, and I was like, okay.
That was where I was like, hey, obviously you have a part in this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's where I start piecing it together. It's probably cult stuff, obviously, because all the symbols and the. It's just it's not very subtle in the sense that it's like, okay, it's going to be a cult or like a witchcraft of some sort. But she learns how to get in touch with her son who passed. And then that leads to Annie being able to find a way to do it on her own, to get in touch with Charlie. And that's where the movie takes a turn into Exorcist territory, where people are, I can see it. That's where I was like, okay, this is where people are getting the Exorcist vibes from. Which is a pretty cheap pull, because it's just like, it's possession stuff. Obviously, you're going to say The Exorcist. But I think the reason why I don't fully disagree with it being compared to The Exorcist is that The Exorcist is also rooted in family drama. And it's also rooted in real humans. It's that showing the humanity of it all. And that's what this movie does as well. Probably the best since The Exorcist in that regard is what I would say. I'm going to keep rambling because I just can't stop thinking about this movie, so you guys are going to have to jump in here.
So, so then they move into she now does one at her own home to bring her daughter back, and she races the family all downstairs. Now, I thought this was really cool, and how excited she was suddenly turning, and she's like, "I just did it, it happened," but then it totally like takes over her.
Yeah.
which blew me away. And my question is, was that her, or is that this like demon Hellgarter that's trying to push through?
I think that was it. That was like, she is a vessel that was basically opening up there, because this is obviously, the title of the movie is even Hereditary. I think that it's in her bloodline. Like her mother, the grandmother, was like the pinnacle of, like, she was the one who, all she needed to do was pass it on to a male host.
Yeah.
And so she had it in her blood, and I think that was with her the entire time. And that's where she starts snapping and switching.
Yeah.
And that's where it's kind of like bouncing back and forth, which makes it's also amazing watching Alex Wolff have to deal with all that as like a little coward. I feel bad calling him a coward, because I'd be worse.
Yeah.
But like, cause like it's an impossible situation. But it's like, on one side you have this kid who's just devastated and he's just terrified out of his mind, and then you have the skeptic father who's just like, no, he's the voice of reason. And it's just such a crazy dynamic in such a little compact. Could be trope, like that scene could be just filled with tropes, and it's not.
Okay, since we're in the spoiler territory and you talked about the floor mat,
Yeah.
I want to go into the Rosemary's Babies thing.
Okay.
Because
Love that movie.
I do too.
Yeah.
But okay, here's the thing about Hereditary. We talked about the death of Charlie. Nobody could have seen that coming. Like Jonny said, we thought she would have been a very focal part of the show. There was nothing about the show that I could have sort of navigated in my own head based on where I thought the writer would take the movie, even in a smart way. But when I saw the format, and then, what's her name?
Annie?
No.
Tony Collette?
No, of course not.
Ann Dowd? Jonny?
Jonny, yeah. When I saw Jonny flag down the car and then the floor mat, I got not worried, because I'm like, okay, this movie like takes no prisoners. It's fucking with us. But I was like, this is reminding me of Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that, because I thought it was kind of a bait and switch.
Mm-hmm.
It would pull us in that way, and then it would obviously take us in a really bizarre direction. And again, this goes back to the hype you're talking about, right? Like the last 40 minutes we were led to believe is completely off the rails, and it is. But that part, because I heard that, and because how the movie was progressing, I'm like, okay.
This is where it starts falling to convention?
Well, not convention. Well, a little bit, but I'm like...
Maybe just nods.
It's not going to take you that far to Rosemary's Baby territory. And it kept moving close to that way. And then when she opened the photo albums,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's actually going full out this way.
Yeah.
And that's when, not that it turned me off of the movie, but that's when it pulled me away from, like Mitch said, a generational show into like, they're actually not like ripping it off, but it's pulling pages out of it to a point that's not consistent with what they were doing before. And then of course the ending, which we haven't talked about, but it's very Rosemary's Baby-ish in the Playhouse.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, they went full out that way. And I guess here's the question, and I talked about this with Craig Silliphant, who's been in your show before.
Okay. So he saw it too?
You saw it yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. And we both had the same question, and it's, does our knowledge of Rosemary's Baby and what happens in that movie hurt the experience or help it? And I'm wrestling with that, because it's so closely aligned.
Yeah,
but
here's the thing. This movie, like, it really does reinvent so many different aspects. Like, you can't, like, you are one critical motherfucker, and I love that about you.
That.
I love that about you.
Yeah.
And like, but that's the thing is, I'm going through that phase where I'm trying really hard to enjoy everything. So I think I didn't read as much into it as you did in that element, in that aspect, because I too love Rosemary's Baby. But, and yes, while it does follow, that's like the one time in the movie where it does follow a convention. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, what else was he supposed to do there?
It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, and it's like, it's got to have some sort of formula. And like, it's so like, to completely reinvent everything. I don't even know how to answer that question, but I'll say that it does fall into a certain stereotypical trope of witch stuff that we've seen before in that element. Mm-hmm. But that's like the only part of the movie that's really like that. But I feel like it's important. I don't know. Do you have something to say, Johnny? I don't know.
Not really. Like, I don't really know
Have you seen Rosemary's Baby? Yeah. So, like, I think, like, what he's saying, too, is that, like, there's the familiar strangers. They're strangers, but they know everything that's going on.
100%.
Yeah, and, like, to show us, like, are you asking, like, did we need to see the photo album of her being in order to understand
No, I'm saying when I saw the photo album, I knew they were going full out
Rosemary's Baby.
And that's when it clued in. Like, I kept hoping that it was alluding to it.
Okay,
but
I know how to answer your question.
Okay.
No, it doesn't matter if like, because I think that even if you haven't seen Rosemary's Baby, you'll be able to pick up on what's going on there.
No, I'm saying, does it help or hurt if someone knows that movie well? Because I don't think it does. It kind of pulled me away a little bit because I kept comparing it to that. Because if you remember the last scene of Rosemary's Baby, it was the apartment room that was remarkably similar. Yeah, but it was quite similar to I know it's the headless stuff. Yeah,
that gets so fucking outrageous. Yeah. Like,
I know, but I don't know.
It's a new age version of it.
For sure. Yeah, it definitely has some nods to it.
It's wrenched up. Yeah, there's definitely nods.
And you can definitely see that he's probably a fan of it.
Yeah, he's probably inspired by it.
But there was no nods to anything before that. Like, if they were so small.
There was.
And then this one, like, almost take the template and then ran with it to the ending. So not enough for me to even be highly critical, but I was kind of like...
Sounds highly critical. Yeah,
it sounds like you're trying really hard.
No, I was a little surprised how closely they followed the Rosemary's Baby thing.
Yeah, okay. But that's the thing, too, is like the symbolism stuff, even like how there's the occult symbol everywhere, how like this has all been done before. I think it's the way that Ari Aster created his own language of portraying it.
Yeah.
But I can see if you're going to try and point out flaws, that's probably where you're going to try and find it, or where it can be found, because that is something that we've seen before in a different way. It does it different enough, in my opinion, that I'm okay with it. It's also a movie that I love.
I'm not saying it's an inherent flaw, because we talked about the Halloween trailer and about the people who are seeing it, and I think 95% of the people who will watch this won't be comparing it to Rosemary's Baby. So I'm pretty sure he made it for people not like me.
No,
but
this one's for Jeff. That's what it said at the end of the credits. If you
are you talking about Hereditary?
Yeah,
I think you 100% made it for people like you. I think you made it for people who want that experience out of it. And
but the themes are so universal. I think you wanted a lot of people, not just of people who could pick out horror nods who are 35 like me. I think you wanted people who are 25 to
plus 48.
But so I guess what I'm saying is my criticism isn't too grounded, because I do think his themes are so universal. I assume that a lot of people who see it will be the kind of there are themes that they can latch onto and it will fuck them up. So the Rosemary's Baby thing is something that took me out of it, but I don't think it's a criticism that is very...
No, it's you crossing your arms and being a fucking filthy neckbeard, being like, this can't be perfect.
I have one more
criticism. I refuse. Go.
I have one more thing.
Okay, do it.
Here we go.
All right. Okay,
let me count on Jeff.
Not many black people in this movie.
Yeah.
If you guys want a circle jerk, I'm not the guy for you.
I just don't feel like the female. Right. Okay, sorry.
So, and this is more of a concrete thing. That's not Rosemary's Baby thing. So the connections between the ending and the central themes are like they're well connected. But I felt like they overcommitted a little bit to the supernatural element. The last sequence, and by that I mean like the last 12 minutes.
Talking about her flying and shit.
The flying.
You didn't like that?
No, I'm not saying I didn't like it, but it just seems. Here's my point. It seems like it is very. It's a little bit disconnected from.
Like the psychological and things that we were playing with to begin with.
And I know, and here's my dilemma. I know that's what people will love, is that it takes you to a 180.
That's what I love about it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But for me, they did such a good job in the first, 95% of not going to a really bizarre route. And then all of a sudden, it just bizarre. Flips it. And then it feel like a separate writer almost wrote the last bit. And it worked for me, but it took me away from the first
Sure, I see what you mean.
110 minutes or whatever.
And I didn't think about this until you brought it up, but it's like it didn't really finish that thought of are there issues, are there mental issues that we're talking about? It
switched right to the supernatural,
and
stuff.
it hit so hard and so fast. So maybe there's not even time, but there could have been a moment that says like, oh, it's not. You know, like where we're talking about that. At least puts at least bookends it and says like we're moving.
They don't make it ambiguous at all in that aspect because she's crawling on the ceiling and shit. Like, there's the scene where he wakes up in his bedroom and like, did you? Because Courtney didn't even notice it, and I had to point it out to her, and it had already the scene had been going on for 20 seconds. But when Alex Wolff is sleeping in his room, it shows like it's like a dark room, but you can see that Toni Collette's like. In the corner of the fucking
and that was another thing that I hate about the theater experience is people are like, oh, she's in the fucking corner.
Oh, people did that for you?
There's like 4 like prom leader girls, like prom queen chicks who were like,
okay, we get it, Jeff. You hate females. You hate women.
It was a bad theater experience.
There was a moment right before that that if you blinked for a second, you would have missed it, and it's right before everything gets fucked up. It's they bring him home, his nose is all busted up, and it's a day shot of the house, and then it just like a light switch flicks to night, and around the house it looks like trees, but there's all these naked people standing around the house, and you don't even see them, they just are blending in.
That's where people were laughing for me.
Oh, really?
People were laughing at the nudity.
Oh yeah,
I thought
grow the fuck up.
Yeah, but this was like right before you even got to see these people. I was just like,
Yeah. But that's also like a witch trope. But I think that's one of my favorite scares in the movie is where they're just in their living room and I can't remember. Alex Wolff he looks over and in like one of the doorways is a completely naked man and it's the smiling man from the funeral.
Yeah.
I love that. I was like, holy shit. Like that's where I feel like the last 25 minutes of this movie, like I do totally agree with you that it changes and it goes from being so like kind of on the fence about what it wants to be or what it's going to be to fully delving into
just
it.
to telling you this exactly
and
what it is.
I kind of like that it does that. Like, because that's where it's like, I generally, like, I've been getting kind of tired of the ambiguous endings or like, is this really happening? Is that like, that's where I feel like it would have been pretentious. I don't feel like this movie's pretentious at all.
No, neither.
And it could be seen, like, I think a lot of people are going to see it as that way just because that's the A24 model of just, like, because this movie's a little bit art house. It's very much supernatural. It's psychological. It's got everything in it.
Now, go ahead, Jeff. You got something. Go for it.
One more point, and then you guys can
take the
jerk each other off.
Bit, yeah.
It actually reminded me a little bit about if you guys remember Dark City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a director's cut of that movie, and there was resolution at the end, but there was a lot of, like, you kind of knew where they wanted to take you, but we're left with no choice but to sort of ponder the enormousness of what happened and how it will continue to happen in terms of really dark, miserable ways. And at the end of the Dark City thing, you're kind of faced with like, well, we know what happened. We know he beat all these extra. I hope you've seen the movie.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I don't remember it at all. Yeah.
Well, you're aware that he triumphed, but you're also aware that he is probably in a cyclical thing of a lot of darkness and sorrow. So you have a little bit of satisfaction of knowing that, like, where the movie as a script took you, but you also know that everything before the ending led you to a really brutal place, and it will probably continue that way. And I think Hereditary is the exact same way. Like it's
brutal.
It's brutal, and it will. It's sort of outline that. Okay, but it's sort of outlining that no matter what happens with him and what's his name? Pyman. Yeah. There will always be his bloodline will always be destroyed.
Yeah. By
what happened to with his mom and then the queen, and so you're left with, we know what's going on, but it's a fucking disaster.
Totally.
And I think that sort of leads into the central theme, which is the family trauma. You can kind of move away from at times, but it'll always come back to, and then eventually consume you. Mm-hmm. So I thought the ending was actually great from that perspective. I just had a little bit, and you guys are being too tough on me, I think.
I think you're being too tough on us. You're saying that we're jacking each other. It's fun to like a movie.
I loved it, man. I loved it. I love
like,
Hereditary.
You hated it. You hate women.
I hate women. Yeah.
You hate fun.
I only want to see movies with guys from now on. But I just wish it would have had a little bit more of a connection to the previous. It's like Donnie Darko. Like the last bit just sort of ripped you away from. There was connections to the first bit, but it didn't.
That's a good reference.
Yeah,
nice.
but it left you figuring it out, but you weren't really satisfied. I
was satisfied.
Of course, but
fuck you.
both directions, but I thought there could have been a little bit more of a tangible connection to the first 110 minutes. That's
sure.
It.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's it.
I've got 2 questions.
Okay.
2 logistical questions.
Do your questions, and then I got some on Facebook.
Okay.
That we were going to quickly answer.
So, logistics. Why does the husband light on fire when she's the one that throws the book in?
I believe that was, like, this is totally my guess,
sure.
But it's, like, that book was designed for a reason. Like, and it was cursed for a reason. It was only, like...
Because she threw it in the first time and she started to light on fire.
Yeah, and I think that her plan was, like, when she gave it to him, he needed to do it. I don't know.
I think she wanted him to throw it in because she was going to sacrifice herself for her family.
Yeah, and mainly, maybe it saw a threat. Maybe that's what it's just going to show her that
the book had some power to be able to decide.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that, but that's it. That was one where I'm just like, I loved how it went that way.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know.
Yeah,
I have a question too. Was Charlie possessed the whole movie?
Yes.
I think she was. I don't know if she was. She was possessed, but I think she was kind of just like a host, kind of in waiting, sort of.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And even because her breastfeeding and everything like that, like, she was prepping her. She was doing all those, like, private things with the grandma and her friends. They discussed that a few times. So I think she was a part of the overall picture, and she served a purpose. And also, when she was, there's a lot to do with heads in this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I gather that. Yeah.
This is my question. Number 2.
Did you pick that up?
Barely.
But, like, the bird thing.
The bird thing, the last scene with 10 decapitated people. Yeah. I caught it. Yeah, barely.
Just over my head.
Yeah.
Oh!
Whoosh. So that was my question too. Why the heads? Why is it? Why does everyone lose their head? Is it essentially to become no longer a potential host?
I think that... I'm going to cheat here and say I read up on that, and Ari Aster doesn't have an exact reasoning why he chose the heads. I think that's just a thing that that's just a stylistic choice. That was just a creative choice that he took.
Because Grandma's got hers.
But this is what I mean. Like Mitch is a smart viewer, and he's guessed on 2 crucial plot points.
And I don't buy that. Like, I should be thinking more about that. Is that what you think?
No, I'm guessing. No, I'm saying, like, if there was something to catch, you would have caught it.
Mm-hmm.
So with the 10 or 8, it was actually 8 heads in the playhouse. There should be something
that's tying that all together.
Tying it in a little bit to what we saw in the first 110 minutes.
Just even like the dioramas too, that are kind of, they're such a focal point. Why is it not really?
Yeah, even on a vague kind of connection, but there wasn't. So, go ahead.
Yeah, that was my question because I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't. I thought that I think I'm on the same boat as you, where I'd like to know if people picked up on something like that, because I can't fully think of.
I don't think there was anything to pick up on the head thing.
Yeah, because that's the thing too. Is like even her grandma's body was stolen. It was exhumed, and they took its head.
Yeah,
and then there's the corpse in the attic, which had no head. And then, oh my God, the best fucking scene. Well, one of the most. This is the scene I think you and I were talking about. Like a chilling scene in the movie where they're in the attic, and Peter looks up, and Annie's hanging in the air. She's hovering in the air, sawing her own head off.
Whoa.
Like, that's a scene that would have destroyed me as a kid.
That's actually not the one I thought you were talking about.
No, really? Yeah. Okay, well, what's the one you're
The one I thought you would be talking about is when she's banging her head on the ceiling.
Fuck, yeah. That's awesome.
And he's trying to keep the attic closed from his mom trying to kill him, and she's just smashing her head.
Yeah, and she's running around. Like, and that's the thing, is like, we've seen that before.
Yeah.
Like, in sense, like, there's been movies that do that, but like but I've never seen someone float in the air and just stare and saw their head off so slow, and then her head drop. I'm like, bravo.
And the strange thing is, I felt absolutely nothing when it happened to the daughter in the bedroom, and it turns out to be like a ball rolling or whatever.
Yeah.
When her head just like, she's kind of standing there and her head falls and it drops to the ground and rolls over to him. I was like, oh, okay, that should have been scarier. And I was really hoping that girl, because she has such a unique style and look, I was like, they're going to play with her. She's going to show up in every corner. I'm happy she didn't, but I just was really expecting that. And the one time they kind of tried that with her, it kind of fell flat for me, actually. But it's a very small thing.
Yeah, that was it was like a little gag, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm going to see this movie again.
Oh yeah,
like this weekend. Yeah. Like I'm actually going to go to it again because there's
so many things to see again and to pick up on.
This is by far the longest we've talked about a main feature because it's impossible to unpack all this. Like what we should have done is we should have jumped right into this.
Yeah,
it's like an hour and a half conversation. I don't know how much longer I can keep you guys here.
Well, let's go to the Facebook questions.
Yeah, I'll do that right here. All right, so on the Facebook page, I just announced that you guys are coming on and that we're going to discuss the movie, and I asked people what they thought about it. So, Adam just says, haven't seen it, but Mitch's hype about it has reeled me in to check it out. Adam, I hope you like it. I know you hated It Follows, and I don't think you've seen The Witch, but I wouldn't guess that you'd like The Witch, but I think this is one that Adam would like. Adam was on our episode on The Exorcist.
Oh,
because cool. I think he's around the same age as you guys are. He's not, well, no, actually, he's not 80. But he's like 33, 34. But he just saw The Exorcist for the first time.
Oh wow!
So that was an interesting conversation.
That'd be cool to have a
I think if you got an appreciation, I think this actually might be a movie that Adam would really like. All right. Bryson says, I loved it. I'm interested to hear your thoughts and discussions on the film. I'm interested to hear what you think happened with Toni Collette's character at the end. I understand what happened with the other characters. Hers I'm a little confused with, though.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we were talking about, like when she kind of originally gets the possession into her, or not possession, but she allows the spirit to take over her, whether it's her daughter.
Yeah, I have if you guys are okay with that, I'm just going to read what he says.
Sure.
My friend David Hopkins, who's host at Erie International, he commented on this. He's the one who I think a lot. He's just smarter than I am. But he said,
not possible.
Yeah, fuck you. He said she was possessed and killed herself. Unless you're referring to something that I missed. And he said, who did she get possessed by? I was understood the Demon King was in the girl at first. That's what the colorful ring thing that they were seeing was. Then it answered the brother at the end. But who did she get possessed by? And did it happen because of the book being thrown in the fire? The reason I'm reading a Facebook conversation is because this might give out some answers. I haven't read this yet, but it might answer some stuff for our listeners. And then David says the intricacies of who, what were possessing people wasn't really explored. I assume it was either payment or other malevolent spirits / demons doing that stuff. Basically, all they really wanted / needed you to know is that there was zero chance of survival, and Toni Collette didn't have any control like she thought she might still have. And yeah, they go on for a while, so I think we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and that's fair, and I think it doesn't really explain it.
No,
it doesn't. Which I actually was kind of frustrated by, because I was thinking did I miss a piece of it? Did I miss who she's really possessed by? Or
well, yeah. Normally, I would just say chill because it's all demon mythology, but they do go through great lengths to explain
it to you and how it works.
Okay,
right?
So if there's shortcomings, I kind of get why you'd be like, well,
yeah, okay, we got maybe answers.
Okay. I'm gonna keep reading this one because he actually looks like he has something here. But Bryson then says, "Sorry, who was the wrong choice of words? How or when did she get possessed? Was it something that was with her the whole time? Is that why she would sleepwalk, or did the burning of the book or finding the body in the attic set everything off for her?" David says, definitely something that was with her in the entire time. The reveal with Joan showed that the events of the film were in motion for decades. Colette's sleepwalking, the bad childhood, her brother's mental illness, and how she described it, etc. All of that was either side effects or direct results of the rituals and ultimate plans for the payment. I think the book burning was symbolic of her understanding and attempts at fighting back, but it was way too late and she had no control at that point.
Oh, that's a fair explanation.
You're a smart man, David.
And I think she even had she wore the same necklace as well that you saw everywhere. So maybe even that was just those keeping that little piece of the hex on her to an extent.
Yeah, and then this isn't really well, actually, it is a question. I've already asked this, but I'm going to say it anyways because he's our friend Ken Manderscheid comments. Curious, do you think someone who got no enjoyment out of The Witch, Mother, and Killing of a Sacred Deer would enjoy this movie? I would like to support theatrical horror, but I'm worried it might be a walkout for me. Thanks. So let's quickly, were you actually not smart enough for Killing of a Sacred Deer?
Way over my head, apparently. It was.
I haven't watched it, so
I was scrapping at the intelligent parts, and I couldn't figure it out.
You didn't like that movie, eh?
Killing of a Sacred Deer, I thought was borderline unwatchable. I thought it was actually the definition.
I know a lot of people didn't like it.
I thought it was the definition of pompous nonsense.
Fuck
but
yourself. Not a chance.
But
disagree.
Can I answer his question though?
Yeah.
Because I hated that movie, and which was whatever on. And what was the third one?
Mother.
Mother, I thought was ambitious but poorly executed.
I'm gonna kick you out of the house.
Okay. I agree with him on Mother.
Okay.
The Mother
I
part.
love Mother.
Okay.
Guys, Mitch is fresh princing me.
I believe that would be a jazzing you.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. If I can answer the question,
yeah, you guys answer this because I'm apparently the wrong one to answer this.
Yeah,
I love all
Mitch
three of
likes
those
any
movies.
movie that tells him that it's a smart movie.
Fuck yourself.
No, but I really think that you would enjoy Mother. I think it's quite different than those three.
You mean you think you'd enjoy Hereditary?
Hereditary, not Mother.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think Hereditary represents something wildly different than Mother, which is a biblical, allegorical thing. Way
Brilliance, genius. Darren Aronofsky.
You heard it there first.
I
Yeah.
love Darren Aronofsky,
Yeah.
but was not good.
No. And Killing of a Sacred Deer, I won't get into that because it's too much to unpack there. Way different, though, than Hereditary. There was the building sense of dread, but it wasn't, to me, connected to anything that's whatever. And then the other one was, sorry, which one?
He Hates the Witch, Killing of a Sacred Deer.
The Witch, yeah. The Witch I thought was much slower. I thought
it's definitely a lot slower.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of unfair that, like, I get why this movie's being roped in with all those other ones, but it's definitely a lot different.
I think it's unfair too. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's well worth it. I think it's just a great movie, and I think it's smart. But I think that maybe that's why people are like, they're doing smart things, but it's not trying to be that. It's not trying to feel overly smart.
No, definitely.
No.
That's something that's. Thank you for pointing that out because I never thought of talking about that, but that's totally what this movie is too. Is that it's not one time. It just doesn't feel pretentious.
Yeah.
Like I get where,
Which is why I'm surprised you liked it. Actually,
fuck yourself. I can get why people wouldn't like Mother. I understand that. Like that is pretentious, but I love it. But like this is not. Like it's pretty actually straightforward. It almost like if you heard our conversation, part of the like flaws are almost in how straightforward it is. Mm-hmm. That's like some of the negative things that are coming out of this conversation is that like some of it is very on the nose. Whereas I think we were expecting it to be more along the lines of the movies that he mentioned here. I get that it's roped in with those movies, but it doesn't fully deserve to be. And when I say deserve to be, like, because I think those are all 5-star movies. I love all three of those movies. Check it out. I agree with Jeff and Jonny saying.
Yeah, I would say go for it.
Yeah. All right. And then just one last thing. It's not necessarily a question, but I wanted to give him a shout out. It's a guy on Instagram said it was not, or the answer 98 says was not capital NOT was not scary. Then the longer it sat on me, the more I was genuinely creeped out by the entire film. Bottom line, brilliant piece of filmmaking and storytelling will stick with you for days. And I think that's also, we kind of agree with that.
Can we touch on one thing? Because I think it's a really important development with that movie. Is the cinema score,
Oh, I can't believe we didn't talk about it because that's 2 5-star movies that got negative cinema scores.
D plus?
Yeah, D plus for Hereditary, F minus for Mother.
Like, okay. Like,
yeah, no, it got an F.
Let's just leave Mother out of this.
Yeah, we have to. Leave my mother out of this.
So it's weird because, there's a certain sect of fans that want to shit on Rotten Tomatoes and the critics. But then you hear something like this where the fans destroy a movie. Like, where do we land on that? Like, I mean,
I've gotten to the point where I just don't care.
I know, but some
it's
people
a good
want to
conversation.
Well, some people want to put emphasis on that stuff, and is it the fans? Well, the fans shit on this. To me, can we agree that was a disgustingly abhorrent rating?
Oh, for sure. Like, there's in no world
Yeah.
could I ever see this. That's why even I've talked to friends who didn't really like this movie, who are still like, it's an incredibly well made movie. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and that's one of my friends who says just like, it's just not what I look for in a movie. It's like,
And the reason I bring it up is that a bit those ratings dictate a lot about promotion,
yeah.
like how the studio will actually promote the movie. So it's just unfortunate because it's a D plus, so the studio will promote it as a D plus movie.
Not only that, and the thing is, the I'm sorry to bring this up again, but the F score for Darren Aronofsky, that's kind of to be expected with him. Like, people, he's a director that's already notorious. People know what to expect from him. They know it's going to be very polarizing. Like, every single one of his movies is. This is a first time director who made almost, like, I feel hesitant to say the word, but like a potentially masterpiece movie that like people are going to be talking about for many, many years, and that score could hurt him.
Oh, it
But
will.
you think it will?
No, I think
Because
it'll
the thing
hurt.
is, it's 98% on Rotten Tomatoes still.
Well, no, I just think it might hurt him in the sense that I don't think it'll make that much money. So I
Oh,
think,
well, yeah, because
Yeah.
general audience, yeah,
yeah,
that's
and,
true.
And I hope.
But
not,
to me, it's also mind-blowing that this is a theatrical. It blows my mind that Saskatoon got this. We got It Follows 3 months after it came out everywhere else. In Saskatoon, where we're living here, it had been out for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the fact that we got Hereditary is insane to me. Like, to know that there are kids out there who are like, oh, it's Friday night, let's go see the new horror movie.
Yeah.
And they go into Hereditary.
Yeah.
It's like, this is not like, it's not like a popcorn movie at all.
And when I went, it was full of people. It was full of cheerleaders, but it was.
Yeah. And they probably all hated it.
Yeah, mostly did. But
Yeah.
I hope people don't put much, and studios don't put too much emphasis on that cinema score, because that was, I
That's
couldn't believe D
disgraceful.
plus. Holy shit.
The thing I
D
do
for
The
disgraceful.
thing I do like about this, the fact that you were seeing so much, like, it's such polar opposites from whether how the fans liked it or how the critics are rating it. It's so all over the place. It's kind of throwing it out the window, saying, like, just go see it. Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
at least, I think there's been so much going back and forth with that, with a lot of the big movies that have been coming out, that I think it at least just forces you to say, like, I'll just make it up for my own self. you know?
Totally.
No, I totally agree. I'm just saying that because I do think studios look at that
For
and
sure.
they put money into advertising based on that. So I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. It also, like, closing thoughts before we close this episode out, is that it speaks volumes that we've sat here and talked about this movie for almost an hour and a half,
Yeah, and we
potentially
and we-
2 hours.
And I'm sure there's many more things that we could keep going on.
Yeah,
about.
like, we actually, like, and I'm sorry for people who are still sticking with me. I was kind of scatterbrained in this episode because I'm like, there's so much to unpack that I don't know. Like, I would need a whiteboard in front of me to be like, hey, this is what happens. Because, like, this movie's 2 hours and 2 minutes long. And I feel like maybe 30 seconds of it isn't important.
Yeah.
Well, like Mitch said at the beginning, like when you guys were trying to navigate spoilers, you could actually go every scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And break down every scene and connect it to the end. So
Yeah.
that should tell you a lot about how impactful that movie is and how deep it is with every single fucking second. So yeah, there's.
But don't go into it either thinking that I'm sure you've seen it if you're stuck with us this long, but the key is don't go into it thinking, oh, this movie is going to be so big that I have to try and understand it all.
Yeah, you can miss a few things and still get the brunt of it. But.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think these movies, I think some people turn on them because it makes them feel dumb.
Yeah, and I don't think this is one of them.
No, I don't think so either. But, like, that's also, like, but at the same time, I'm sure I missed, like, I'm sure there are people listening who are just like, what the fuck are you talking about? They explain this, because it's just like, how can, I just can't pick up on everything. This is what you get for listening to idiots at the terror table. Like,
if I had to guess, the people who didn't have a good response to this are I think most of the group would be, they just don't like watching complete fucking agony for 2 hours.
yeah, because it is miserable.
It's miserable and does not let up at all.
I'm a guy who falls asleep to Requiem for a Dream, so like I fall asleep
And
to
Armageddon,
I
that
love,
you've said far too many times.
yeah, apparently Requiem and Armageddon.
I love Requiem for a Dream.
So yeah, that's one group, and then
good
the other
score.
group is kind of like confused by how the movie progresses. But if you pay attention, it's not too difficult. So I wholly recommend it.
Yeah,
Predictions for Boozy. What do you think he's
Well,
gonna
you
pick?
know better than me, man.
Well, he hates supernatural movies.
if I think someone thinks awesome, I'm gonna think Boozy will shit on it. But
I don't know. I think it's tough to really get a miss on this.
have
one,
you
I
met
think.
Boozy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you'll like it.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope he likes it.
I don't know him well enough, but
I've already done this for 2 hours. I don't have the time or the crayons to explain this any longer.
No, getting to Boozy's head would like take 4 more hours. So
more crayons.
Yeah, more crayons. Exactly.
Love you, Boozy.
That's right. We've met for like 15 minutes, so I apologize.
No, him and I razz each other pretty hard. I love that guy. But yeah. You guys ready to close it up?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Thanks for having me on my first.
Of course, yeah. I'm sorry that you had to come with Jeff for your first time.
That sucks.
It's already. I think even our listeners have kind of picked up that you guys are going to be rotating guests whenever you guys want. We'll have you guys on here many times. But one of these times you can come here without Jeff, so we don't have the fun sponge sitting here.
Yeah, I knew at some point Mitch would just phase me out, and I was hoping it wouldn't be this early, but
yeah.
All right.
But
I guess you could tell them how our new episode's up tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. So after this, you should, if you're still looking for more content,
yeah.
If you were going across like 2 to 3 provinces and need content tonight, you'll have this episode and then our new episode up shortly after.
We won't talk about Hereditary at all. It'll all be Jonny's.
You guys recorded this like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
It'll all be music picks, and you guys can judge Jonny based on his picks.
Yeah,
give it a listen. Jonny's the smart one of the podcast.
That goes without saying.
All right. So we'll be back next week. I didn't even mention, I feel weird mentioning this at the very, very end of the episode. Next week, like I said, is going to be me and Boozy and welcoming guest Lee Beckman. We're going to be discussing a movie that he picked that we all agreed on. It's going to be a controversial one, but you guys have listened to us long enough know that we're going to give this movie... We're talking Jeepers Creepers. We're doing Jeepers Creepers, which is a sacrilegious type. Like it's just people don't want to hear about it anymore. Like it's a chastiser among the horror community. Regardless,
it still happened.
It happened. It affected some people. It affected us. We talk about it countless times. It's going to be a good conversation. All I ask is that you listen to it and you give it a chance. Even if you're one of those people who doesn't want to ever think about that movie or anyone involved with it again.
That's a good movie, actually.
We'll talk about it next week, but that's yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. So we'll see you guys next week for episode with Lee Beckman. This is the Terror Table signing out. Go listen to So Be It. Go watch Hereditary. Good night, everybody. Stay spooky.